Mu Ran muttered in her heart as she slowly sat down beside him. Eat. Yi Hua said indifferently, then picked up a pancake that had eggs and ham added on. He took a big bite. How fragrant. Mu Ran also picked one up and handed it to Blue Sky Red. Yi Hua and the Blood Tribe sisters naturally saw this action of hers. TSK, TSK, TSK. It seemed that Mu Ran had taken it to heart. However, Tsang Kong Hong was still in a daze. He was so stupid that he could die. Mu Ran lightly took a bite, and felt that this strange food was indeed delicious. I really want to ask how this food is made, and in the future, I can also make it for her. Thinking of this, Mu Ran shook her head. How could she think like this? Mu Ran, when they come later on, what are you going to do? Yi Hua finished off Mu Ran in 1 or 2 moves, then leaned on the throne and asked casually. Mu Ran paused and said, Your Majesty, please believe in Mu Ran. Alright, this Empress will believe you this once. But what if they insisted on attacking? You think you can stop an army of 300,000? Or is it safer for me to keep you here? Mu Ran remained silent after hearing what the Emperor said. What the Emperor said is right. If I am here, they might not make a move, but if I am outside, they will be able to make a move without any restraints. Yi Hua looked at Mu Ran and seemed to be a bit silent, then said faintly, I am naturally not afraid of them. It is fine for me to keep all of them here today. I want their blood to dye this snowfield red. What a magnificent scene that would be. After hearing what the Emperor said, Mu Ran felt that the Emperor was bragging. 300,000 people, how can you possibly stop them? Your Majesty, just let Mu Ran give it a try. Mu Ran will use my life as a guarantee. Yi Hua laughed. Mu Ran, are you saying that if I fail, your life will belong to me? That's right, Mu Ran will definitely be able to persuade them to retreat. All right. I will believe you this once, but Mu Ran, let me tell you this. If you fail, then don't blame me for being ruthless. These 300,000 people cannot be returned. Yi Hua said coldly, and a surge of killing intent immediately erupted out from his body. Mu Ran said respectfully, Mu Ran understands. Just that, Mu Ran didn't take Yi Hua's last few sentences to heart. I thought that it was the Emperor's joke, and I can only rely on myself to convince them. Suddenly, black dots appeared on the snowfield that stretched as far as the eye could see. Looking at these black dots, Yi Hua was a bit excited. They are finally here. That's right, the people who are coming are from Guda Principality. The 4th prince, Feng Yun, was riding his horse at the front, and his expression was a bit astonished. Not only Feng Yun, Ding Wenba and Xia Yu who were at the side were the same as well. There were even a lot of soldiers who were rubbing their eyes, as if they were looking at a mirage. This is Lingtai Kingdom? Xia Yu said in disbelief. In my memory, Lingtai Kingdom's walls were made of wood, but looking at the walls right now, the walls are dazzling with gold and jade, the walls are 300 meters tall, and the imposing aura it gives off makes people feel intimidated. This is simply even more majestic than Guda Principality. If I were to take over Lingtai Kingdom and become the king of Lingtai Kingdom, how awesome would that be? Xia Yu, is this really Lingtai Kingdom? Feng Yun mumbled, not daring to believe what he saw. Replying to General, this is indeed Lingtai Kingdom. Xia Yu said respectfully from behind. Unbelievable. Ding Bowen muttered with a face filled with astonishment. After the astonishment, Feng Yun revealed a light smile. I was just worrying about not having a good city. After I take over Lingtai Kingdom, I will be able to use the city for myself. As for this Xia Yu, after making use of him, I will be able to leave with a peace of mind. Dying on the battlefield, this idea isn't bad. Very quickly, the 100,000 strong army entered into the shooting range of the bow and arrow and stopped. Yi Hua waved his hand, and an old man picked up an ordinary bow and arrow, then pulled the bow and shot the arrow in one go. Everyone looked at the bow and arrow drawing a beautiful arc in the air. After that, the arrow landed 3 meters away from Feng Yun's horse. Feng Yun immediately burst into laughter. His laughter caused everyone behind him to burst into laughter as well. Amidst the laughter, a row of white armored soldiers shouted towards the sky. Those who cross the line, die. Right after Feng Yun finished speaking, the drummers at the back started beating the drums. Dong, dong, dong. The drumming sounds were earth-shattering, seemingly piercing through the entire world, causing everyone to be excited. Even the commoners in the city wanted to rush out and fight on the battlefield when they heard the drumming sounds. Of course, this was bad news for the enemy. Their laughter was drowned out by the drumming sounds, and when the enemy heard the drumming sounds, their morale immediately dropped by a lot. Chapter 778. Just as Feng Yun was scolding himself for not bringing a band with him, a black sound suddenly rang out. The sound was so loud that it actually overpowered the sound of the drums. Yihua stood up with a smile on his face. Battleship. This is a bit interesting. I haven't seen this thing for a long time, I really miss it a bit. Mu Ran, who was at the side, also looked towards the sky with a taut face. The people from Tianliang's sect are here. Feng Yun raised his head and stared at the dark sky, his brows slightly wrinkled. This seems to be the sound of the battleship's horn. General. This should be the people from Tianliang's sect. Ding Wenba, who was at the back, reminded softly. Feng Yun really didn't expect that the people from Tianliang's sect would also want to get a share of the loot. Right now, I am still relatively weak, I cannot let Wuliang's sect discover anything. But to Xiaoyu, the more people the better, this way, it will be more stable. Suddenly, 10 enormous battleships surged down from the clouds. As if they had broken through the clouds, they brought along traces of clouds and mist. This kind of scene was very spectacular, and it was very ostentatious. The 10 battleships were arranged neatly, just like an enormous tortoise shell in the sky. The flag of Wuliang's sect was hung on the poles, and there seemed to be a lot of people standing on the deck. They were densely packed. At the start, these people were very excited, but after seeing the scene, they became astonished. From the sky, one could have a good view of Wushu Empire. The first feeling. The second feeling. The second feeling. The big. The third feeling. The long. Is this Wushu Empire? Is this still an empire? This is simply even grander than my Tianliang sect. Looking at this dazzling city and that towering palace, this is undoubtedly showing off my heroism. Especially that city wall, it is so tall, when people stand below it, they are just like ants. Ma Ji and Fang Meiying, who were leading the group, were a bit astonished. Hearing Yunting say it was one thing, but seeing it for themselves was another thing. At the start, they even felt that Yunting was exaggerating a bit, but looking at it now, they realized that Yunting was not exaggerating at all. Furthermore, Yunting even said it tactfully, fearing that he would hurt Tianliang's sect's morale. Elder Fang, this Wushu Empire is not ordinary. Ma Ji lightly stroked his beard and said faintly while staring at the man who was wearing an emperor robe on the city wall. Fang Meiying nodded silently. Elder Ma, we should be more cautious. Mu Ran is still in their hands. Yes, but it's a good thing that the Duchy of Gouda is here. Ma Ji smirked. Those people could be used as cannon fodder. Fang Meiying knew what Ma Ji meant, so she silently agreed. If it was really a trap, the ones who would die would be those ordinary people. Her own sect's disciples wouldn't have to die. Come down. Fang Meiying said indifferently. She did not choose to enter through the air because she had a bad premonition. If they attacked from the sky, they would be too densely packed. As long as they destroyed 10 of the battle arcs, they would be finished. Yihua looked at the battleship that was slowly descending, and a dense mass of people walked down from the battleship. The number of people walking down from the battleship was double that of the people in Gouda Principality. Looking at the battleship from the top of the city wall, the scene was indeed a bit spectacular. Do you recognize all of these people? Yihua asked curiously. Mu Ran nodded and said, I know them all. Introduce them to me. Mu Ran exhaled deeply. The general of Gouda Principality is 4th Prince Feng Yun. Feng Yun, what do you think of this person? Feng Yun is the most outstanding among the princes, and the king also has the intention to give the position of crown prince to Feng Yun. Mu Ran said respectfully. I understand now, this Feng Yun wants to come back and become the crown prince. His idea is not bad, just that, he doesn't use his brain. Yihua lightly leaned on the city wall and looked at Mu Ran with a playful expression. Mu Ran remained silent. This emperor is so smart, he guessed it so quickly. What about the people from Tianliang sect? Mu Ran said gravely, the people from Tianliang sect are my teacher, Fang Meiying, and Ma Ji, Elder Ma. Since your teacher is here, you have to persuade them, if not, your teacher is going to fall here today. I am not joking with you. Yihua said indifferently while looking down at the army that was not far away. With 300,000 people lined up, the scene is truly grand. However, it is useless to have so many people, I can deal with them with just a snap of my fingers. However, that is too easy for you all. Without any fluctuations in your hearts, how can you all display despair and fear? Hearing what Yihua said, Mu Ran was a little unconvinced and said lightly, my teacher is a rank 1 Do Huang, and Elder Ma is also at the peak of the king realm, he is also just a step away from becoming a Do Huang. Alright, stop explaining, in my eyes, they are all the same, salted fish. Yihua said indifferently. Mu Ran pursed her lips. This is the most boastful emperor that I have ever seen. On the other side, Feng Yun jumped down from his horse and obediently came to the front of Tianliang sect's army. I am Gouda Principality's 4th Prince Feng Yun, greetings to the 2 seniors. After Feng Yun finished speaking, he cupped his hands. He was very low-key and did not have the airs of a prince at all. However, in his heart, he secretly swore, I will return this scene to you all sooner or later. I, Feng Yun, am a transmigrator with a system. The heavens have destined that I will become popular in the entire Kanglo continent. Ma Ji took a look at Feng Yun, then ignored him. On the other hand, Fang Meiying nodded her head towards Feng Yun. Gouda Principality sure is considerate. Of course, of course. Feng Yun lowered his head and replied while cursing in his heart. Afterward, Feng Yun felt awkward. The other party seemed to have stopped talking, and I have been lowering my head like this, it seems like I am a joke. Furthermore, I am doing this in front of 300,000 soldiers, I have truly lost all my face. Elder Ma, could it be that this is a trap? As a woman, Fang Meiying was rather vigilant. Ma Ji didn't act impulsively and said to Feng Yun, go and get someone to pass the message. Feng Yun didn't dare to say anything and directly obeyed the order. In his heart, he wished that he could get rid of these 2 fellows. After returning to his own camp, Feng Yun immediately called Xia Yu. General, what's the matter? Xia Yu shouted out respectfully. It's nothing big, I just want you to go and pass the message. Feng Yun said faintly, and his expression wasn't very good. Ah! Xia Yu cried out in surprise. Isn't this a big matter? This is equivalent to sending someone to die. Feng Yun's gaze turned cold. What? Are you thinking of disobeying a military order? I don't dare. Xia Yu hurriedly lowered his head and replied. Disobeying a military order would result in death, but passing the message might not result in death. This 4th prince is trying to get someone else to do his dirty work. If it's so vicious. Xia Yu didn't have any other choice and asked, 4th prince, what do I want to ask? Just have them hand over Mu Ran. All right. Xia Yu rode on his horse and looked at the city wall in front of him. He had a strange feeling that he was going to die soon. Also, that arrow, just now, it said that those who pass the arrow will die. I wonder if that is true or not. Chapter 779. Right now, Xia Yu was trembling with fear. If tens of thousands of arrows were to shoot at him, he would definitely be turned into a hornet's nest. Just thinking about it made his scalp numb. Yihua looked at Xia Yu who walked out from the army. Who is this person? He is the former royal family of Lingtai country. Mu Ran said lightly. Those who didn't know would have thought that the 2 of them were together. They were actually chatting casually. Yihua understood. So that's the case. Interesting. Yihua waved his hand towards Serena, who was behind him. The latter ignored him and immediately started making arrangements. Xia Yu rode his horse and arrived at the center of the city. The cold wind caused his arms to become stiff. He could only look up at the 300 m tall city wall. Just as Xia Yu was panicking, the war drums suddenly sounded out again. The war drums this time were different from before. The war drums brought along a very impassioned mood. Flags could be seen being erected on the city wall. Along with the cold wind, an enormous pressure immediately swept over. How could the war horse that Xia Yu was riding on endure such an imposing aura? It immediately became very agitated. Xia Yu accidentally fell off the war horse and landed on the snowy ground. He was in a sorry state, and the war horse immediately ran away. Seeing this scene, Yihua revealed a smile of disdain. Truly a little weak, unable to be brought onto the stage. Xia Yu, who landed on the snowy ground, was very embarrassed. His originally pale face had now become red. Right now, I can only walk up. With heavy footsteps, Xia Yu gradually walked to the city gate and discovered a problem. Even if I shout till my throat breaks, the people on the city gate won't be able to hear me. Just as Xia Yu was thinking of a way, the huge city gate actually slowly opened. This caused Xia Yu to unconsciously take a step back. The battle is imminent, and they actually opened the city gate. What is the meaning of this? Right now, Ma Ji and Fang Meiying were also very puzzled. They didn't understand the other party's intention. This is too careless, isn't it? Everyone looked at the city gate, seemingly wanting to see who would appear. However, everyone was about to be disappointed. The person that appeared was not a human, it was a husky. Sending out a dog. Is this a mockery from Wushu Empire? The 300,000 troops were burning with rage. This is a blatant mockery. To send out a dog to negotiate, this is too much. Mu Ran also saw that Yun Lang had walked out. She was puzzled. Yun Lang was looking down on the emperor. Why would the emperor do this? This would infuriate the other party. Even if she wanted to reconcile later, it would be impossible. Letting a dog out, His Majesty. Mu Ran couldn't help but ask curiously. Yihua took a look at Mu Ran, then said faintly, "This is already thinking very highly of them." Mu Ran did not speak. She was thinking about what she was going to say later. Below, Xia Yu saw a dog walking towards him. That silver fur, those strange eyes, seemed to be revealing something. He couldn't move at all. What kind of dog was this? How could it have such an ability? Yun Lang circled around Xia Yu and sniffed the air out of conditioned reflex. After that, he discovered that, why did I have to sniff the air? I am not a real dog, I am a fake dog. Seems like I have gotten used to being a dog recently, and all of my actions are subconscious. Yun Lang gave Xia Yu a disdainful gaze and slightly raised his head. This was the contempt of a king. Suppressing the panic in his heart, Xia Yu yelled, "Let Mu Ran go. I'll spare your lives." Yihua was naturally able to hear Mu Ran's words and said with a smile, "This person's tone is rather big. What do you think, Mu Ran?" Mu Ran did not speak. She felt that she wasn't a hostage at all, but rather an accomplice. Yun Lang shook his head. "Seems like you can't do it, change to another one." In order to achieve fairness, Yun Lang took small steps and walked towards the 300,000 strong army, and his gaze emitted out a different kind of coldness. Death gaze. Xia Yu hurriedly turned around and ran. His words had also arrived. At this moment, the scene became strange. Yun Lang walked over with his head held high and chest puffed out, while Xia Yu was panicking and would even fall down from time to time. This made the 300,000 strong army blush with shame, and they wished that they could kill this fellow who lost his imposing manner. Look at other people's dogs, shouldn't you learn from their footwork? Just like that, I lost the first round. Humans can't be compared to dogs. Not long later, Yun Lang arrived in front of the 300,000 strong army, and as if he was inspecting his own army, it made everyone want to eat dog meat. After all, in this freezing weather, having a plate of dog meat should be very refreshing. This dog is a little strange. Ma Ji said gravely. Fang Meiying also felt it. Although she couldn't put her finger on it, but this dog was definitely not an ordinary dog. Yun Lang could be seen stopping in front of Fang Meiying, then turning around. He raised his leg and gestured, seemingly wanting Fang Meiying to follow him. Don't go. Ma Ji said in a low voice. Fang Meiying paused for a moment. Don't worry, nothing will happen. Towards this kind of dog, Fang Meiying was also very puzzled, but she didn't take action to kill it. If she took action just now, the situation should be even more joyous. If that was the case, Yun Lang would be able to have a full meal. Yun Lang walked at the front, and Fang Meiying followed behind unhurriedly. Fang Meiying appeared to be very confident. After all, she was the strongest out of everyone. Rank 1 Do Huang. Yun Lang directly brought Fang Meiying into the city, and soon after, the city gate closed. The 300,000 strong army was filled with admiration in their hearts. Chapter 780. Should he just kill him now? No. He was an elder of the Wuliang sect. If he were to kill him in this situation, he would definitely be laughed at. After all, the emperor had invited him here, and if he were to kill him, it would be very shameful. After all, the other party looked very weak. Fang Meiying stood in front of Mu Ran and looked at Yihua vigilantly. Yihua said faintly, "Don't be nervous, I won't harm you." Fang Meiying was speechless. "I'm considering whether or not I should hurt you. But you said you wouldn't hurt me. Where did your confidence come from?" "Teacher, nothing will happen," Mu Ran said. Mu Ran seemed to have a lot of trust in Yihua. When Fang Meiying heard Ran-er's words, she immediately felt that something was wrong. Why was Ran-er speaking up for the other party? Was he under some kind of spell? Fang Meiying quickly held Mu Ran's hand and checked her physical condition. Yihua did not stop them and waited quietly. "Master, I'm fine." "I'm fine," Mu Ran whispered. Fang Meiying was very confused. Ran was actually fine, but this was too abnormal. "I rather admire this disciple of yours," Yihua said faintly. "What do you want?" Fang Meiying asked coldly. Yihua laughed lightly. "You all brought people to my territory, and you all are asking me what I want to do? There's something wrong with your logic." "Of course I'm here to look for my disciple," Fang Meiying said in a deep voice. "Is that so? Then, does this emperor understand that once we bring the hostage away, you all will retreat?" Yihua asked faintly. Fang Meiying frowned slightly and did not reply. At this time, Mu Ran hurriedly advised, "Master, the emperor has already promised to let me go. Don't attack." "That's right. Mu Ran is right. After all, these are 300,000 lives. Although it looks good to dye the snow red, it's too cruel." Mu Ran was speechless and hurriedly explained, "Master, His Majesty didn't mean that." Her disciple had repeatedly interceded with the emperor, causing Fang Meiying to be in a bad mood. The most urgent thing to do now was to take Ran-er away. "I'm taking him away. If you want to stop me, then come and try," Fang Meiying said coldly and grabbed Mu Ran's hand. "Sure." Yihua didn't plan to force Mu Ran to stay. "Follow Master." "Teacher, wait a moment." Mu Ran hurriedly said to Yihua, "Your Majesty, my..." Yihua knew what Mu Ran wanted to say. "Don't worry, I won't go so far as to make things difficult for ordinary people." Mu Ran nodded, looked at Sun Konghong behind her, and reached out to hold her hand. This action made Fang Meiying's face sink. This strong man was wearing an iron mask. What was his relationship with Mu Ran? Thousands of curses floated out from Sun Konghong's heart. This Mu Ran actually grabbed my hand in front of so many people. He really wanted to shake it off. But his honor has given me an order, I can't shake him off, Master. He saved me twice, Mu Ran explained. But just now, you clearly promised the emperor that you would. Slap. Fang Meiying still couldn't help but slap Mu Ran. Sun Konghong, who was standing at the side, moved slightly, but in the end, she still stopped and didn't make a move. I am here to protect Muran. Meanwhile, Muran held onto her face and looked at Master in disbelief. This is the first time that Master has slapped me. Muran. Look at your position clearly before talking to Master. Fong Meiying shouted out. Muran became silent. I finally know why that emperor said that. What he said is right, even if I come out, they still wouldn't leave, because I am just an excuse for them to mobilize their troops. Yi Hua, who was standing on the city wall, saw everything. Little Muran, you are really pitiful. You got slapped by Master, right? You really don't know how to look at the situation. I still need to learn more. Seeing that it was about time, Yi Hua slowly walked down the stairs. Within the army, Feng Yun stood respectfully in front of Feng Meiying and Ma Ji. In his heart, Feng Yun was scolding Feng Meiying for being so shameless, to actually want to let our own people become cannon fodder, but right now, other than agreeing to it, I don't have any other choice. Muran, who was standing at the side, didn't have any other choice. This magnificent Wushu Empire is going to be occupied. I can't let them retreat and deceive the Emperor. If I am still in his hands, it might be a bit better. Chapter 781. General, are we going to be cannon fodder? Ding Wenba asked at the side. Feng Yun's expression was gloomy. If I wait until I become stronger, the first one I will destroy will be Tianliang's sect. Go and arrange for the siege. Feng Yun said gravely. Right at this moment, Feng Yun heard a cry of surprise coming from outside and immediately walked out of the tent. Wushu Empire's gate could be seen opening once again. This time, someone came out. 2 rows of white-armored warriors walked out of the city gate in an orderly manner, forming a long line. Suddenly, a golden carpet was laid out from the city, and it just so happened to be in the middle of the white-armored warriors, giving off the feeling of a nouveau riche. 300,000 people are just quietly watching. What is the meaning of this? The 2 rows of white-armored warriors suddenly stopped their footsteps and stood facing each other. They instantly raised the flag of Wushu Empire and crossed it together. And in the city, 3 figures appeared. Yi Hua stepped on the golden carpet, and the Blood Race sisters followed behind him. The 3 slowly walked out. Everyone took in a breath of cold air. This emperor sure knows how to act cool. And there are 300,000 spectators watching him act cool. Right now, Yi Hua was feeling very good. Although there wasn't any big scene, this kind of low-profile acting cool still felt very good. After walking to the end of the golden carpet, Yi Hua stopped his footsteps. At this moment, the sunlight in the sky suddenly shifted and actually shone on Yi Hua's body, causing the emperor's gown to shine brightly, looking very dazzling. This added a different kind of acting cool. 300,000 people looked at this emperor, and their minds were all stupefied. This is the first time. This is really the first time, Yi Hua, who was standing below the flag, said to the 300,000 people, Heavens! If you all retreat, I will let bygones be bygones, but if you all continue to persist in going about things the wrong way, this snowy land will be the best place for you all to return to. I never lie. Everyone immediately became silent. You are King bragging, right? We haven't even seen the regular army, and you still dare to say that you are going to destroy us. This emperor not only knows how to act cool, he also knows how to brag. Later on, I will let you see what is called awesome. Yi Hua turned around and walked into the city with a smile of disdain on the corner of his mouth. Actually, I can choose not to come out, but I like to be benevolent, so I will still give them a way out. As for their choice, it is unknown. Yi Hua didn't continue going up the city gate and returned to the palace. I will leave this place to the Blood Race sisters. It is more than enough. After all, in this kind of small situation, the Supreme Overlord had already given a lot of face by coming forward to say a few words. During these few years, everyone in the team had been training hard, especially those that were lagging behind. They didn't dare to slack off at all. Strength is indeed very strong. However, from that battle with Nan Wuqi, they also realized that strength isn't invincible. One still needs to know a bit of magic, and this was also the shortcoming of most people. This move of the Blood Race sisters was taught by Yu Hua, although it wasn't as powerful as Yuhua, it was still enough. This kind of snowy sunset only appeared on the battlefield, and the 50,000 soldiers seemed to have lost their target. They couldn't differentiate between north and south, and didn't know which direction they should charge towards. Seeing this scene, Feng Yun didn't know why, but he felt a bit happy. Seems like the other party still has some strength, and I thought that I would be able to deal with them with just my own people. Fang Meiying and Ma Ji's originally relaxed expression gradually became grave. This kind of snowstorm is not normal. Mu Ran looked at the spectacle in front of her, and suddenly felt that the emperor didn't lie to her. The blood of 300,000 people splashed onto the snowy ground. This isn't impossible. The falling snow in the sky gradually turned into hail. The smallest was actually the size of a fist, and the biggest was at least the size of an adult. Falling from a height of 10,000 meters, it was extremely terrifying. Furthermore, the density of the hail made it so that there was no way for people to escape, and the 50,000 soldiers immediately let out miserable screams, and those that had shields immediately raised up. However, when those huge hailstones fell onto the shields, they were unable to withstand it, and they immediately fainted. Then, they fell onto the snowy ground and got trampled on by the people beside them, or get hit by the hailstones again. Basically, if the hailstones hit their heads, it would be game over. The miserable screams within the battlefield became softer and softer, and soon, there was nothing left. However, not even a minute passed by. When the snowy sunset dispersed, only the white snowy ground was left, and everyone was buried within the snowy ground, because there were some places that were still blood red. The remaining 250,000 people were already stupefied. This snowstorm alone buried 50,000 people. This is simply too savage. This is simply inhumane. Chapter 782. That beautiful face was filled with bloodlust, and her eyes were gradually turning red. This was not a cry, but a sign unique to the Blood Clan. Feng Yun stood outside the tent, not feeling sad for the 50,000 dead warriors, and even felt that it was quite good. Now, your Tianliang sect should send troops. You can't let me keep sending people to die. However, just as Feng Yun finished thinking, a disciple came over and asked Feng Yun to go over. Feng Yun, of course, didn't dare to disobey, and went to Wuliang sect's camp. Senior, Junior's warriors are all ordinary people. We can't do anything about this situation. Please make a decision. Feng Yun said respectfully. Fang Meiying was silent. Ma Ji said indifferently, continue sending troops, I have a way this time. Hearing this, Feng Yun's face changed, but he lowered his head so no one noticed. This person is so ruthless. Let all my people die, and then they will find a way to solve this. Tianliang's sect is really ruthless. Today I learned something new. Mu Ran, who was standing behind, was also very surprised. Elder Ma actually wanted to send people to die. Is Tianliang's sect so unreasonable? Mu Ran had only been in Tianliang's sect for a short 3 years. In these 3 years, Tianliang's sect didn't have any wars. In Mu Ran's eyes, Tianliang's sect was still very good. But today, he saw clearly that Tianliang's sect was also a sect that didn't care about human lives. Mu Ran's heart was filled with disappointment. Go quickly. What are you waiting for? Ma Ji shouted coldly. Feng Yun's forehead was bulging with blue veins. Should he say no? If he said yes, and Feng Yun dared to say it, he would die on the spot. A gentleman's revenge is never too late. I, Feng Yun, will remember this debt. Yes. Feng Yun replied respectfully, and then returned to his camp. Ding Wenba quickly asked, General, what's wrong? Damn Tianliang's sect, they're too much. Feng Yun's fist slammed on the table. General, does Tianliang's sect still want us to send people? This is too hateful. Then tell me, is there any other way? If I don't obey, we will be the ones to die. Feng Yun rubbed his forehead and said coldly. I swear. I must destroy Tianliang's sect. Ding Wenba didn't say anything, and Xia Yu was still standing on the side. A short while later, Feng Yun waved his hand, go make the arrangements. Yes. Ding Wenba accepted the order and went to make arrangements. This was completely sending others to their deaths. As expected, when Ding Wenbo announced the order, the remaining 50,000 soldiers began to discuss among themselves. Some even disobeyed. However, the general was a ruthless person, killing decisively, immediately suppressing everyone. Soldiers, Cold Sky sect has an idea this time, it won't be like before. Ding Wenbo shouted loudly, as if he was using this method to stabilize the morale of the army. However, Ding Wenbo was a civil official after all. This kind of rhetoric had no effect at all, and it even attracted more retorts. In the end, he was suppressed. However, the soldiers had no choice. There was an order from above. Even if it was an abyss in front of them, they had to jump in. But was it really worth it? Even if he had to die in battle, at least there would be an enemy. Look at Voidless Empire, their soldiers are all standing on top of the city walls and didn't come down at all. However, their own people have indeed died. The remaining 50,000 soldiers of the Duchy of Gouda slowly walked out. They no longer had the aura of wanting to kill. Every step they took was very careful. Snow began to fall from the dark sky once again, and the scene was exactly the same as before. This caused the 50,000 soldiers to be terrified to the extreme. In an instant, they began to run in disorder. Hailstones had already formed above the clouds, and as long as the hailstones descend, these 50,000 soldiers would fall once again. Solidify. Ma Ji's hands could be seen immediately forming hand seals, and a yellow light could be seen appearing in the sky. A yellow dot could be seen spreading out in the shape of a fan, enveloping the entire battlefield. The heavy snow immediately stopped. The 50,000 soldiers saw that Cold Sky sect had made their move, and when the hailstones landed on the shield, they were unable to smash into the shield. Gradually, the 50,000 soldiers began to cheer, picked up their blades, and once again rushed towards the city gate. Ma Ji sneered, "You dare to be impudent in front of me with such insignificant skills, you are truly courting death." When the hailstones landed on the shield, all of the hailstones shattered. The hailstones were unable to pierce through the shield at all, and the shield protected the 50,000 soldiers below. Just when those 50,000 soldiers were feeling happy, the hailstones in the sky gradually changed. Just like daggers, the hailstones descended from the sky with cold glints. The degree of density of the hailstones caused people to feel numb, especially for people who had trypophobia, they would feel numb. Countless ice blades forcefully stabbed into the shield, but they were unable to pierce into the shield. Ma Ji was in the middle of releasing the ice blades, and he was continuously strengthening the shield, and cold sweat could be seen appearing on his forehead. Right at this moment, an extremely large ice blade appeared in the sky. Compared to the other small ice blades, those are all ants. This is what Big Brother is. The extremely large ice blade that brought along a cold glint pressed straight towards the shield. Even Fong Meiying was dumbfounded for a moment. What kind of spell is this? It is so powerful. The extremely large ice blade pierced through the shield without any difficulty, and Ma Ji couldn't help but spurt out a mouthful of blood, suffering from the backlash. The extremely large ice blade that landed on the ground was like a small mountain, and in an instant, quite a number of people were crushed to death. Without the protection of the shield, those countless small ice blades that landed on the ground were densely packed, and no one was able to escape from this kind of attack. This was the legendary knife of the underworld. In an instant, all 50,000 soldiers fell onto the ground, and warm blood sprayed onto the snowy ground, forming a magnificent picture. Just like what Yihua said, this snowy ground would be dyed with the blood of 300,000 soldiers. Seeing this scene, Fengyun found it hard to believe. It's over. This is the first time I went out to battle, and my entire army was wiped out. How am I going to explain this to my father when I return? I am completely unable to explain this to my father. Furthermore, if my father emperor were to know about this, he would definitely be angered to death. Because this is a battle that paved the way for me. It is all this damned Tianliang sect's fault. Why don't all of you go and die? Elder Fong, are you all right? Fong Meiying, who was at the side, asked gravely. I'm all right, I was careless. Ma Ji said coldly. Just now, I also made a fool out of myself, and I actually vomited blood. If this were to be spread back to the sect, wouldn't I become a laughing stock? Fang Meiying said faintly, those 100,000 soldiers did not die in vain, I have a way to deal with them. When Mu Ran heard what her master said, her heart skipped a beat. To actually say that those 100,000 soldiers died in vain, I feel that my master has become a stranger in front of me. Following Fang Meiying's command, the 100,000 soldiers of Tianliang's sect walked out. This was 100,000 doja. Their strength cannot be underestimated, and they are truly terrifying. And Fang Meiying already has a way to break the enemy's technique. The 100,000 disciples of Tianliang's sect shouted out, and all of them started their charging mode, and Fang Meiying had already started his preparations. However, this time, there was no snowstorm. This made Fang Meiying very puzzled, and the 100,000 disciples that were present were all puzzled. Chapter 783. Looking at the situation, Fang Meiying gradually became serious. The other party does not intend to use the same trick again. What are they trying to do? The 100,000 people at the scene looked at the surroundings vigilantly. The snow on the ground moved faster and faster, to the point that it even swept up the corpses that were just killed. The strange scene made everyone's heart turn cold. Seeing this scene, Feng Yun's back turned cold. Just when did Wushu Empire appear? Just what is going to happen? Seeing this scene, Mu Ran became even more certain of the emperor's words. If they don't leave, everyone will die here. Suddenly, Mu Ran thought of something. No wonder the emperor handed me over so easily, because he has the confidence to capture me back and let me see everyone's face. What kind of person was this emperor? Why was his mind so meticulous? Every step seemed to be within his calculations. So terrifying. Elder Fang, this Wushu Empire is a bit strange. Right now, Ma Ji was a bit worried as well. He discovered that things aren't as simple as he thought. Fang Meiying's expression was grave as she turned her head and asked Mu Ran, you have stayed here for a period of time, just how strong is this Wushu Empire? No matter what, Fang Meiying was her teacher. Mu Ran said respectfully, teacher, disciple does not know how strong they are. This Wushu Empire doesn't have any officials, other than the emperor and the two empresses. There are still 20+ subordinates, and the two people who are standing on the city wall are precisely one of those subordinates. Hearing Mu Ran's words, Fang Meiying and Ma Ji became even more grave. Just a moment ago, they were still laughing at the emperor for running away and leaving behind two women. It seems like the emperor didn't even bother to continue watching and left behind two women to clean up. Just as the two were guessing, a terrifying thing happened at the scene. The snow on the ground quickly moved and formed into 5 snowballs that were 300 meters tall. That was about the same height as the city wall. However, the 5 snowballs actually stretched out their legs, hands, and even their heads. Adding on the legs and heads, the height had already surpassed the city wall, and the 100,000 disciples on the ground were just like ants. What was terrifying was that on the bodies of the 5 snowmen, all of them were people who had just died, and they were all embedded in the bodies of the snowmen. Half of the faces were smashed off, and the snowmen even used 100 human heads as their eyes, causing people to tremble in fear. What kind of monster is this? Ma Ji raised his head and looked at the enormous snowmen and muttered. Fang Meiying didn't know what to say. Her eyes were filled with horror. Mu Ran was also dumbfounded and in disbelief. Beside her, Sun Konghong was very calm. If Yu Hua was here, it would be even more spectacular. At that time, it would not be 5, but 50. However, now that he thought of moonlight, Sun Konghong felt very calm. This made Sun Konghong a little puzzled. When Feng Yun saw this scene, his intestines turned green with regret. Were they paving the way for him, or were they using him to pave the way? This kind of snowman, just one of them would be enough to destroy Gouda Principality, let alone 5 of them right now. Damn it, you immortals are fighting, why do you have to call a mortal like me? Shameless. Shameless. The ones who were most afraid were the 100,000 disciples on the battlefield. They had all forgotten to run, and their faces were filled with despair. No one knew who gave the order to run, but everyone followed. The 5 snowmen didn't do anything else. They just lifted their feet and stomped down. 5 loud sounds rang out across the world, causing the ground to tremble. Even those in Wushu Empire could feel it. It was unknown how many people would die from the stomp of those enormous feet. All of the disciples rolled and crawled as they ran. They didn't have any desire to fight at all. Meanwhile, the 100,000 disciples who were standing and watching the battle felt their bodies go numb. With 5 stomps, at least a few thousand would die, and with a few more stomps, all of them would definitely die. Ma Ji and Fang Meiying took a look at each other, then released all of their duqi and condensed into swords in their hands. Immediately, they attacked towards the snowmen. If the 2 of them didn't make a move now, it would be impossible to save the situation. The 5 snowmen continued to stomp, and the disciples on the ground fled in panic. I don't want to die. Isn't Tianliang's sect the strongest sect in northern Liang? Why is there an existence that is even more powerful than Tianliang's sect? Don't step on it. No matter how these disciples ran, they couldn't outrun the stomping of the snowmen. The 5 snowmen were just like stepping on ants, one stomp after another. In just a short while, almost all of the 100,000 disciples died on the spot. Sky Profound Sword Technique. Ma Ji shouted out furiously. His peak stage King Realm strength was unleashed with all his might. His body emitted a faint radiance, and the sword in his hand released a sword light that pressed straight towards the head of the snowman. Hua! The sword light easily penetrated the head of the snowman, but what were snowmen made of? They weren't living things, therefore, this kind of damage could be ignored. The head that was cut open actually gradually closed up, and then, as if nothing had happened, it continued to stomp. How is this possible? Ma Ji, who was holding the sword in his hand, muttered. However, just when Ma Ji was lost in thought, one of the snowmen actually didn't continue to step on the disciples, but instead, sneak attacked Ma Ji. Be careful. Fang Meiying shouted in a delicate voice. When Ma Ji reacted, it was already too late. The snowman's fist fiercely hit Ma Ji's body. Ma Ji's body smashed into the ground like a cannonball, creating a huge pit. The disciples were all stunned. This was Elder Fang, who was at the peak of King Realm. He was actually smashed into the ground by a snowman, and no one knew if he was dead or alive. What kind of strength did these 5 snowmen have? Why were there such monsters in this world? God, please come and take them in. Fang Meiying didn't hold back anymore. She instantly displayed the strength of a first-grade King Realm Do, and a terrifying Do Chi spread out. Illusion Breaker. Heaven Sword Art. The sword in Fang Meiying's hand flew towards the sky and released a dazzling light. A huge sword image appeared in the sky, and it carried along a terrifying destructive power. I will let you all experience what is called death. Fang Meiying shouted in a delicate voice. Her finger immediately pointed towards the city gate, seemingly wanting to use the sword to cut down the city gate of Wushu Empire. The huge sword image descended with a terrifying pressure. When the 5 snowmen saw this situation, they actually chose to stand under the huge sword and raise their hands. Those who didn't know might have thought that they were going to surrender. This move was one of Fang Meiying's ultimate moves, and she wouldn't use it unless she had no other choice. After all, this was a trump card. Bang! The huge sword image landed on the hands of the 5 snowmen and released a terrifying aura. This caused the disciples present to be dumbstruck. Is this the strength of a King Realm Do? This is completely not the same level as a King Realm Do. As expected of Elder Fang, she was able to suppress these 5 monsters by herself. Feng Yun was also dumbstruck. This Cold Sky sect is indeed very powerful, and this woman is also the same. To actually be able to suppress the snowmen, she is truly very powerful. Mu Ran was also very surprised. Teacher is truly very powerful, bang. Chapter 784. The sword images disappeared as well, and Fang Meiying's breathing became a little hurried. Using this ultimate move brought me a very strong feeling of fatigue, but if I don't use it, there is no better way. Right now, the do chi in my body is a little chaotic. Seems like attacking Wushu Empire this time was still too rash. I should have sent a few more elders, or a Peak Emperor Realms sect leader, that way, I might still have a chance of winning. But luckily, I managed to get rid of those 5 monsters. Fang Meiying turned her head and looked at Ma Ji, who was in the hole. I don't know if he is dead or alive. I didn't expect those snowmen to be so strong. A Peak Emperor Realm martial artist couldn't even withstand a single punch from them. Serena, who was on the city wall, rubbed her little sister's shoulder. You're driving a car again. Big sister, sorry, I was just thinking about what to eat tonight. Serena said apologetically. So embarrassing. Serena rolled her eyes at her little sister. Do you think I don't know you? Don't you know what you want to eat? Sister, you're so annoying. Don't you like to eat it as well? Serene raised her eyebrows. She had a look that said, aren't you the same? How dare you lecture me? Concentrate, I am doing something. Serena nodded her head seriously. The 2 sisters started casting again. While Fang Meiying, who was in the sky, was thinking, a terrifying do chi fluctuation gathered below. Fang Meiying immediately retreated and looked at the pile of snow vigilantly. Everyone felt the terrifying aura that the pile of snow was emitting, and fear appeared in their eyes. Why did I have to come here? Isn't it better to stay in Tianliang sect and train? Why do I have to fight and kill? I hate fighting and killing. If these people had already attacked Wushu Empire, they would definitely not hate fighting and killing, and might even like fighting and killing. The pile of snow that had already collapsed once again fused together. Just now, there were 5 snowmen, but this time, there was only 1 snowman. The height of the snowman didn't change, but its body became more robust. All of the corpses formed every detail of its body: chest muscles, abdominal muscles, shark lines, mermaid lines. The veins on its arms were all formed by corpses. That huge head was even more terrifying. Blood was still dripping down from it. The huge snowman seemed to have a life of its own as it shook its head and swept its gaze across everyone. The snowman could be seen clenching its fists, slightly bowing its body and letting out a terrifying roar. This roar made everyone's hair stand up, and they could even smell the blood that the snowman spat out. Fang Meiying finally revealed a look of panic. If these snow corpses were only Do Huang's. In that case, he was already a Do Huang. His strength was already on par with him, or even slightly stronger. Fang Meiying couldn't care less. She turned around and shouted, "Retreat!" The 10 battle arcs were ready to retreat at any time. Roar! The snow corpse roared angrily and exerted force with its legs. A powerful shockwave burst forth from the ground, and the snow corpse soared high into the air, leaping towards the battleship. The scene left everyone dumbfounded. The snow corpse was like a huge gorilla, using its terrifying jumping ability to draw a beautiful arc in the air. Boom, boom, boom. The snow corpses landed abruptly, and everyone could feel their feet trembling. The battleships were like pieces of wood, crushed by the snow corpses. The other battleships were then used by the snow corpses to play with. The huge battleship was like a child's toy to the snow corpses. Mu Ran gulped and finally admitted a cruel fact. The Emperor was not bragging. What he said was the truth. Today, all 300,000 people are going to die here. Light of world, lock! Fang Meiying shouted, and a rope condensed in her hand and flew towards the snow corpse. The purple rope instantly wrapped around the snow corpse and tied it tightly. It was commonly known as Asian binding. Mu ran. Bring everyone and retreat. Fang Meiying shouted. She channeled all of her do chi into the snow corpse and firmly tied it up. The snow corpse that was tied up seemed to be very angry. Its body seemed to have become a lot bigger, and one could even see its muscles expanding. Hearing her master's words, Mu Ran immediately arranged for everyone to retreat. However, how are we going to retreat now? Turn around and run. 100,000 people turned around and ran. Feng Yun didn't have much time to think and immediately rode on his horse and ran. If I don't run now, then when will I run? It's normal for me to stay at home and develop my strength. Why did I have to come out? Isn't it better to hide in the palace and develop my strength? Wouldn't it be better to wait until all the generals are selected before coming out? I am really stupid. However, after running for a few hundred meters, everyone suddenly fell down, seemed to have bumped into something. One of the disciples who fell down touched onto the ground confusedly. Although he couldn't see anything, it was very obvious that he touched onto something. Some people began to beat onto the ground ferociously, but no matter what, it was useless. Despair, a deep despair spread out in everyone's heart. They were trying to exterminate everyone here. Turning around and looking at that enormous snow corpse, Elder Fong is unable to hold on for much longer. That purple rope seems to be about to break. If we don't run out, everyone is going to die. My emperor gave you all a chance to live. It is you all who did not cherish it. Today, the blood of 300,000 people will be sprinkled onto this land. There will be no mercy. Serena's words drifted into everyone's ears. After the remaining 100,000 disciples heard what Serena said, they began to beg bitterly. I am also obeying the emperor's orders. I don't have the intention to go against you. I beg Wushu Empire to spare my lives. Mu Ran, who was within the group, was a bit dazed. She didn't know what to do. The emperor had already said these words to me. Why didn't they listen to me and insist on letting everyone die here? Why? Fong Meiying looked towards the blood sisters on the city wall. It seems like she is planning to capture the leader first, and that snow corpse is about to break free. Roar. Before the snow corpse finished speaking, the snow corpse roared furiously, and the purple rope on its body instantly broke apart, transforming into stars and disappeared. The snow corpse glared angrily at Fong Meiying, who was in midair, and the muscles on its body squirmed. Then, the snow corpse shot out explosively. Its speed was so fast that it made one speechless. And Fong Meiying did the same as well. She slashed towards the blood sisters with her sharp sword. The blood sisters looked at Fong Meiying, who was attacking towards them. They did not take any defensive measures, seemingly intending to let Fong Meiying kill them as she pleased. Fong Meiying was overjoyed in her heart. As long as I kill these two women, this snow corpse will disappear. These two demonesses, this elder is going to dismember the two of you into pieces. Fong Meiying's speed was indeed very fast, but the snow corpse wasn't slow either. Although its body was huge, its arms were extremely long. If not, why would others feel that it looked like a gorilla? Go and die. 10,000 spirit magic sword. Fong Meiying shouted out, and the long sword in her hand emitted out a golden brilliance. The little sister Serena said with a slight smile, "Be careful of your back." Fong Meiying's gaze sank, and a huge palm could be seen stretching over, then grabbing out. A terrifying sword aura erupted from the snow corpse's palm. Chapter 785. Roar. The snow corpse grabbed the spoils of war in its hand and patted its chest with its left hand, as if it was showing off. The remaining 100,000 people saw that their elder had been captured by the snow corpses, with only his head sticking out of the snow corpse's hands. The snow corpses leaped up into the air. Boom! He landed a short distance away from the 100,000 cold sky sect disciples. Everyone was frightened silly and did not dare to move. Now that even a Do Huang elder had been captured, what use did they, as Doja, have? The snow corpse slowly stretched out its right hand, and everyone could see Elder Fong's painful expression. The fear in their hearts reached a peak, and some of the timid ones were so scared that they sat on the ground. Master! Mu Ran shouted, and her small body seemed to want to go and save the elder, but Sun Konghong, who was at the side, pulled her back. Sun Konghong! Let go of me. Although Master just hit me, Master was good to me in the past. How can I watch Master die in front of me? Sun Konghong directly hugged Mu Ran, not letting her do anything. No matter how Mu Ran patted, Sun Konghong didn't let go. The snow corpse gradually tightened its right hand, and everyone could hear the clenching sound coming from the huge palm, as well as Elder Fong's painful cry. Is this terrifying snow corpse trying to pinch a Do Huang to death? Feng Yun, who was not far away, was already scared. That's a Do Huang. You actually pinched him to death. Right now, Fang Meiying could feel that her body was being squeezed together, and her internal organs were all heavily injured. Puff. As the snow corpse tightened its grip, Fang Meiying spat out a blood mist. Everyone was scared. It really pinched a Do Huang to death. What kind of empire is this? It's even crueler than a sect. The snow corpse loosened its right hand, and Fang Meiying's body fell onto the ground, and she no longer looked like a human. Roar, roar, roar. The snow corpse beat its chest with both of its fists, let out a berserk roar, and started trampling mercilessly. There wasn't the slightest bit of mercy. Song Konghong hurriedly carried Mu Ran and dodged. It seemed dangerous, but actually it wasn't dangerous at all. Under this merciless trampling, 100,000 disciples were instantly killed, and only Feng Yun was left in Guda Principality. Ding Wenba and Xia Yu couldn't escape at all, and they were all trampled to death. Enough. Enough. Don't kill anymore. Mu Ran cried miserably in Sun Konghong's arms. However, as Mu Ran spoke, the snow corpses actually stopped. Only a few hundred of the 100,000 were left. Everyone looked at the snow corpses that stopped moving, and all of them were very puzzled. The snow corpse could be seen lowering its head and taking a look at everyone, then turning around and walking away. In the process of walking away, the snow corpse's body began to melt, and in the end, it turned into ordinary snow and fell onto the ground. Feng Yun went into a daze for a moment, then stretched out his hand and touched the invisible wall. Upon discovering that he could pass through the invisible wall, Feng Yun did not even think much and immediately broke into a run, and when the remaining disciples saw that Feng Yun was actually able to run out, they immediately didn't think of anything else and hurriedly ran away. However, Mu Ran wasn't in a hurry to run. Instead, she walked to the side of Fang Meiying's corpse and decided to bring her master's corpse back. After taking one last deep look at Voidless Empire, she walked in the direction of Tianliang's sect while Sun Konghong followed behind Mu Ran. When is this protection mission going to end? Your Honor, at least say a deadline, don't go on like this. The vampire sisters on the city wall pursed their lips and disappeared from the top of the city wall, appearing in the palace. The two bowed respectfully and said, reporting to Your Honor, everything is done. Yi Hua nodded his head, spread this news out. It is about time for Northern Liang to know about Voidless Empire. Yes. The two sisters received the order and left. Yi Hua took a deep breath. This north of Kangluo continent is a bit interesting. It seems to be more interesting than the south. However, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji seem to not be planning to share this moment of happiness with me. Yi Hua came to the children's palace, and in the garden, he saw Qingye and Donghuang Baiji playing with the children. When the two of them saw Yi Hua, the happy smiles on their faces instantly disappeared. Yi Hua was also helpless. The speed at which the two of you change your expressions is a bit too fast. Daddy! The four little fellows shouted out. Yi Hua nodded his head, then walked forward and sat beside his wives. However, Qingye and Donghuang Baiji didn't pay attention to Yi Hua, not even taking a look at Yi Hua. Yi Hua stretched out his hand, seemingly wanting to hold on to Qingye's hand. However, before he even managed to touch Qingye's hand, Qingye had already hidden away. Qingye even stood up and changed to another seat, distancing herself from Yi Hua. When the children saw this scene, they were also helpless. Daddy, we are willing to accept the mission, but Mom is very angry, you have to coax her. Towards this situation, Yi Hua did not get angry. It was also reasonable for them to be angry. Just now, people came from outside the door. Guda Principality and Tianyang sect, a total of 300,000 people. Yi Hua said lightly. Seeing that his wives were not speaking, Yi Hua said faintly, I have already given them a chance, and Mu Ran had also tried to persuade them, but they still chose death. Qingye and Donghuang Baiji did not have any reaction to what Yi Hua said. Yi Hua thought that they would blame him for being cruel, and didn't expect that they would be so calm. However, in Qingye and Donghuang Baiji's hearts, how is this considered cruel? Exiling our own children, that is cruel. This wife of mine has been not uttering a single word the entire time, and it is giving me a headache. Yihua feels that it is better for me to put down a bit of face. Wife, I'm hungry, Yihua said while looking at Qinya. His tone was a bit strange, and seemed to have a hint of acting coquettishly. Even a supreme overlord is able to act coquettishly? Oh my god, goosebumps are starting to appear all over Qinya's body. I remember that last time when Yihua also acted coquettishly, it was simply unbearable. Not only Qinya's entire body, Donghuang Baiji's entire body was the same. Even the children were the same as well. This was the first time they saw their father like this. He suddenly realized that although his father was strict, he was quite cute at times. Just like now, he was acting spoiled in front of his mother. Yihua gave Dong Huangli a look, and Dong Huangli immediately understood. Mom, Ali is hungry. Yi Yan could also understand his father's gaze. Mom, Yan, is also hungry, I want to eat Mom's cooking. It was useless for Yihua to beg bitterly. However, when it came to the children's request, the two mothers would definitely agree to it. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji walked over to the kitchen and started cooking. After the two mothers left, Donghuangli said with a smile, Dad, didn't I say that Mom would definitely be angry? Daddy knows, so Daddy will coax your mommy. Don't worry. Yihua stroked onto Donghuangli's face. Right now, Donghuangli is becoming more and more beautiful. Donghuangli is also enjoying her father's stroking. Dad, what are we going to do? Gaji suddenly asked curiously. Chapter 786. After all, Donghuangli and Gaji were blood-related siblings, and Yi Yan and Yi Lu were the same as well. However, the two of them were unable to play with each other every day. This time, by letting them form a team like this, it would also increase the bond between siblings. It could be seen that when Yihua decided to form a team like this, the children revealed a disappointed expression. Donghuangli wanted to form a team with Yi Yan. After all, these two little fellows would be able to play with each other, and right now, Donghuangli knew that she would have to bring along her ice-cube little brother Gaji. Yi Yan was the same as well, he wanted to play with his big sister, but his little sister was a cold goddess, and they were not even on the same topic. Gaji had the same thoughts as well. Big sister is too playful, it would be best for little sister Yi Lu to form a team with me, she can study martial techniques and also spar with me. Yihua naturally knew what the children were thinking, and thus, he said gravely, the matter of the teams has been decided, no one is allowed to go against it. Since their father had already said so, what else could the four little fellows do? They could only nod their heads and agree. Seeing that the children were obedient, Yihua felt happy. He walked towards the palace's kitchen and prepared to have a good talk with his wives. After their father left, the four little fellows sighed and laid on the stone table unhappily. Yihua arrived at the palace's kitchen. The equipment here was rather outdated, but it still had a unique flavor. The two empresses were currently cutting vegetables, and when they saw that their husbands had arrived, their expressions immediately turned ugly. Yihua let out a breath and said lightly, Don't be angry, it will only happen once, it won't happen again in the future. After saying that, Yihua thought to himself, as long as it happens once, their hearts will be wild, and at that time, they will naturally want to develop even higher. This is all a trick. After hearing that, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji remained silent. Yihua walked to Qinya's back and hugged her from behind. Meanwhile, Qinya raised the kitchen knife and shouted out sternly, Yihua, do you believe that I won't chop you in half? I don't believe you. Yihua tightly hugged onto Qinya's slender waist and said indifferently. You. What exactly do you want? Qinya said. You two can be at ease, I won't let the children get hurt. They are also not going out alone, Ali will bring Gaji, and Yi Yan will bring Yi Lu. After all, they are blood-related siblings, but they have not played with each other for the past few years. Therefore, this time, they will be able to improve their relationship a bit, don't you two think? Yihua used his own theory to persuade the children. Needless to say, it really worked. Both Qinya and Donghuang Baiji felt that they were blood-related siblings, but they weren't that close to each other. After all, their personalities were different. Yihua let go of Qinya and placed Donghuang Baiji into his embrace, then said tenderly, Baiji, am I right? What right and wrong? In any case, it isn't good for you to take the children away from us. Donghuang Baiji said tenderly. However, from her tone, Yihua could tell that she wasn't that angry anymore. Yihua stretched out his hand and embraced Qinya into his embrace as well, then said warmly, all right, this is all for my own good. Just promise me this time, all right? In the future, whatever you guys say will be the law. I guarantee that I will not go against it. How about it? To Qinya and Donghuang Baiji, this benefit is rather tempting. After all, Yihua often doesn't listen to me. If we are able to obtain an obedient Yihua this time, it would be pretty good. Besides, this time he was determined to send the children away, no matter how she begged, it was useless. It was better to take more benefits and train her husband well. Really? Qinya had a look of disbelief on her face. Donghuang Baiji also had a look of disbelief on her face. You are a supreme overlord. If you were to listen to your wife's words, how embarrassing would that be? Yihua laughed lightly. When have I ever lied to you too? Furthermore, what's wrong with me listening to my wife's words? If anyone dares to make irresponsible remarks about me, I will destroy that person. What you mean is that you will listen to us in the future? Qinya asked curiously. Yihua nodded his head, that's right. Donghuang Baiji asked closely, everything, including your revenge plan? That's right. Yihua had put in a lot of effort. Children, for the sake of your future, your father has sacrificed a lot. Qinya suddenly held onto Yihua's face. It just so happens that I need you to do something for me, and I can see if you are really obedient or not. Heh, Qinya, you are my empress. Not to mention one thing, I am willing to do even 10,000 things for you. Qinya said petulantly, don't speak so fast, listen to me first. All right, as long as you two can let the children leave peacefully, I am willing to do anything. Qinya took a look at Donghuang Baiji, and Donghuang Baiji silently nodded her head. Yihua slightly wrinkled his brows, and a bad feeling emerged from the bottom of his heart. Qinya could be seen saying seriously, if you marry Yutong, I will believe you. Yihua, F***K. I only have that little bit of excitement from having an affair, and you two want to exploit me too? This is too cruel. No. You want to test me again? These two wives of yours are really bad. To actually use this kind of method, I nearly fell for your tricks. I say, Qinya, is there any meaning in doing this? Yutong is my sister-in-law. What you are doing is trampling on the bottom line of morality. After Yihua finished speaking, he felt that it was a bit weird. It seems like I am having a great time having an affair. Donghuang Baiji snorted coldly, you still dare to say that you are obedient. Look, the first request you make is already disobedient. Yihua, I knew that you are a swindler. Qinya, don't bother about him. In the future, don't bother about him anymore. Humph. Qinya snorted coldly, then continued cooking. Yihua had a look of, you can scram now, don't come and bother us. In actuality, Yihua and Qin Yutong had discussed about this problem before. Rather than being exposed, it would be better to do it secretly. Using Qin Yutong's words, it was very exciting. As long as I am together with Qin Yutong, my heart would beat faster, and I would be afraid that my big sister would suddenly kill me. However, Yihua was the same as well. Other than having an affair with Qin Yutong, there seemed to be nothing else that could make me so nervous. If I were to really agree to it, then this excitement would be gone, and there would be nothing else in the world that could make me so nervous and restless. Qinya, change your request, I can agree to anything you want. Yihua said gravely. I have already promised my sister-in-law that I will always be in this state, so how can I be a person who goes back on his words? Qinya said faintly, I only have this one little sister, I can't bear to part with her, and I can't let you take advantage of her. If that's the case, then there is nothing to talk about, you are not even thinking for my sake. F***K. In the past, when we were together, when I wanted to do something to your little sister, you would throw a tantrum in every possible way. Now, look at it, you want to send Yutong to my bed, but have you ever considered my feelings? I don't want to lose the only feeling of nervousness that I have. Qinya, change your request, anything is fine. Yihua felt that he had to choose between the child and Yutong. Qinya placed down the kitchen knife, then looked at her husband and said, I will only be at ease if Yutong is with you. In any case, you have spanked her butt. Chapter 787. Could it be that Yutong said it herself? She actually betrayed me. If that's the case, don't blame me for betraying you. Is this the only way for you two to be happy? Yihua asked gravely. His tone was filled with despair. He wasn't faking it. Upon thinking about how the feeling of excitement and nervousness would no longer exist, Yihua's heart was about to break. Seeing that Yihua had the intention to let go, Qinya and Dongwang Baiji pressed Yihua onto the chair, then squatted down and held on to their husband's hands. Dongwang Baiji said tenderly, Yihua, this matter has indeed troubled you, but Qinya is also worried about Yutong. You are not young anymore, and we had already planned to get married a few years ago, but you were unwilling. Don't worry, we won't be angry. Yutong is not an outsider, we have lived together for so long anyway. That's right, hubby, Yutong is already so old, but sometimes, she still acts like a child. You don't have to feel burdened, we can just go and do some mental work for Yutong. Qinya persuaded. She was worried about her sister marrying someone else, and only by marrying Yihua would she be able to be at ease. It must be said that Qinya's way of thinking had also changed along with Yihua's strength. In the past, this kind of thing would definitely not be allowed, but it was precisely because of Yihua's strength that Qinya felt that other than Yihua, there seemed to be no one else in the world who could match up to her sister. Furthermore, those men were all extremely bad men. After hearing that, Yihua took in a deep breath. Such a wife. I love her so much, she knows how to find a woman for me. Yutong, in order to let the children go out peacefully, brother-in-law has no choice but to cheat you this time. Alright, as long as you two are happy. Yihua held on to his forehead with a painful look on his face. I'm not pretending, I'm really in pain. It feels so good to have an affair, and it's even my sister-in-law, just thinking about it makes me excited. Now that it's over, my sister-in-law has become my wife, what am I excited about? Hello, Yihua, Qinya kissed her husband, and Donghuang Baiji did the same as well. Finally, one of Qinya's wishes was fulfilled, and the main reason was to give Yihua a huge benefit, so that he could forget about other women. Alright, then don't be angry anymore, the children have their own sky, you two can't guard them forever. Yihua said solemnly. Qinya and Donghuang Baiji nodded their heads. Last night, they found out that the children were looking forward to this mission very much, and it seemed like they had been thinking about it for a long time. You guys go ahead and cook. I won't disturb you. Yes. With a heavy heart, Yihua walked out of the kitchen. During lunchtime, Qin Yutong appeared on time, and as usual, she played with the children. I hope that after I get a man, I will be able to mature a bit. While eating, Qinya said solemnly, Yutong, I have something to discuss with you today. When Qin Yutong saw the serious expression on her big sister's face, she knew what she was going to say, and her face immediately collapsed. It wasn't the first time that the children felt sorry for their aunts. They were going to be lectured by their mothers again. Regarding this kind of matter, Qinya didn't plan to hide it from the children. Big sister, you don't have to worry about my matters, I know. Qin Yutong said helplessly. Be a bit more serious, sit up straight. Qinya said gravely. Qin Yutong sighed and sat up straight. After going through our decision, your marriage has already been decided. Hearing what her big sister said, Qin Yutong had a stupefied look on her face as she cried out in surprise, Big sister, do you have to be so ruthless? I don't even know who the other party is, and you already decided on it. What about human rights? Donghuang Baiji laughed lightly, your brother-in-law has already agreed to it. Yihua let out a breath. Yutong, we won't be able to have a clandestine love anymore in the future. After hearing what Yihua said, Qin Yutong was stupefied, then looked towards Yihua, seemingly asking, "Why did you agree to it? Didn't we agree to have a clandestine love forever?" "Brother-in-law, you are lying to Yutong." The little fellows went into a daze for a moment, then congratulated their aunt one after another. In actuality, the little fellows had long treated Qin Yutong as their family, and right now, it was only justifiable. Qinya smiled slightly and said, "Yutong, in the future, you are also a wife. Be more steady, don't be so fussy and throw your husband's face." Qin Yutong had a bitter look on her face, looking as if she was about to die. "This matter is decided then, Yihua, I will have to trouble you tonight," Qinya said. It was clear that she wanted to settle this matter as soon as possible. As long as they get on the bed, it would be considered as a success. "Yihua, do you guys have to be so anxious? Is it really alright for you two to be like this?" Qin Yutong was stupefied, and she felt that her brain was a bit short-circuited. During the afternoon, Qinya and Donghuang Baiji had specially decorated the bedroom. After that, Qinya pushed the two newlyweds into the bedroom. "Yihua, be gentler, Yutong has never experienced it before, understand?" Before leaving the bedroom, Qinya specially told Yihua to be gentle, and not to use too much force. When Qinya and Donghuang Baiji walked out of the bedroom, Yihua sat weakly on the chair, and Qin Yutong was the same as well, she sat weakly at the side. "Brother-in-law, do you still feel nervous and excited?" Qin Yutong asked disappointedly, because right now, there was no longer any nervousness and excitement in her heart. "No," Yihua said faintly. "Brother-in-law, you lied to me." Qin Yutong snorted. "They used the children to threaten me, what else can I do?" Yihua was also helpless. Qin Yutong lied on the table and said in a low voice, "Brother-in-law. I feel that calling you brother-in-law is a bit exciting." Yihua felt for a bit, it is indeed a bit. "Then, how about I not change the way I address you in the future?" Qin Yutong said happily. "Sure." Yihua did not object, he just liked it when Qin Yutong called him brother-in-law, he was a bit excited. Qin Yutong came to Yihua's back, lightly hugged him, then said tenderly, "Brother-in-law, big sister said just now, you have to treat me more gently, you can't use too much force." Yihua snorted coldly, then turned around and hugged her. "Do you think that is possible?" I like brother-in-law's rough appearance." "Hurry up, I have already waited for a few years." Yihua laughed. He knew that it was not easy for Qin Yutong. Although she was lacking that excitement, at least she had a home to return to. This silly woman, she even cried. However, 1 minute later, Qin Yutong immediately let out a scream, "Brother-in-law, it hurts, I'm not going to do it anymore." Yihua pressed onto Qin Yutong's sexy body. "Yutong, in the past, you were the one who was shouting every day, and now, you are not going to do it anymore? Who knew that it would be so painful?" "Brother-in-law, let's change the mode, I will serve you." "Shut up." "Ah." Qin Yutong cried on the bed, but in the end, her dream came true. Chapter 788. Qin Yutong almost forgot that there was still a mission. "It seems like after completing the mission of pushing down brother-in-law, I can use whatever I want in the shop. Let's not talk about so many useless things first. Let me apply some ice on it, it will definitely swell up." "Yutong." Yihua hugged onto Qin Yutong and said with a smile. "I didn't expect Qin Yutong's taste to be so good." "Brother-in-law, I can't take it anymore, you can go and look for my big sister, or even big sister Baiji, please let me go." Yihua slowly lifted up Qin Yutong's chin. "Yutong, I suddenly discovered that this is also quite good." "What's so good about it? It hurts so much." However, Yihua flipped over and pressed down onto her, giving Qin Yutong a fright. "Brother-in-law, don't, this is more or less enough." "Hee, you can ask your big sister, this bit of time is just my warm-up, I am only entering the main show now." "Ah, big sister. You caused Yutong to die, having changed to a new taste." This made Yihua feel extremely good. It is normal for it to last a bit longer, men all like new things. Therefore, Qin Yutong was unlucky, she couldn't even get down from the bed on the second day. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji knew that this would happen, wasn't I the same back then? However, looking at Qin Yutong's current state, it seems that she is even more miserable than me back then. Qinya was finally at ease with her little sister's problem, and one of her worries was finally settled. However, in the entire northern Liang land, the news of yesterday's battle had already spread, and everyone knew about it overnight. Tianliang's sect joined hands with Gouda Principality and gathered 300,000 people to attack Wushu Empire. In the end, all 300,000 people were killed. Tianliang's sect's elder Fang was even directly pinched to death. That scene made everyone's back turn cold. Because everyone knew of Fang Meiying's strength, to be able to pinch a rank 1 Do Huang to death, just how strong must she be? Just what is this Wushu Empire? Why have I never heard of it before? A lot of people came over with curiosity to take a look at the powerful Wushu Empire. This also achieved Yi Hua's initial goal, and he could clearly feel that the number of people entering the city was increasing. As long as you live in my territory, you will never want to leave again. Within Tianliang's sect's hall, Lan Gu was sitting at the top, and there were 2 elders sitting beside him. However, there were 2 elders' seats that were empty, and those seats belonged to Fang Meiying and Ma Ji. Fang Meiying's body was placed in the middle, and everyone's expression was very heavy. Mu Ran knelt behind her master. The tall firmament red stood behind Mu Ran, giving off a sense of oppression. Out of the 200,000 disciples, only a few hundred returned. Elder Fang has fallen, and Elder Ma's whereabouts are unknown. The one who spoke was one of the elders, Yu Wenba. This person was wearing a blue gown, and he had jet black sideburns. A strand of black hair fell beside the corner of his eyes, giving people a kind of frivolous feeling. Yeah. This is the first time our Cold Skies sect has suffered such a heavy loss, sect master. Give the order. Qi Lu was another elder. He was dressed in a black robe and had a small beard on his chin. As the sovereign, Lan Gu's face was taut. 200,000 disciples were gone just like that. If word got out, Tianliang's sect would lose all its face. Mu Ran. What exactly is going on with Voidless Empire? How strong were they? You've been captured by them for a period of time, it's impossible that you don't know anything. Lan Gu questioned in a deep voice. Sect Master, Mu Ran doesn't dare to lie to you, what Mu Ran said just now is the truth. Mu Ran had already told Lan Gu everything that he knew. Lan Gu questioned coldly, why did that emperor treat you well? And he even let you go easily. Mu Ran really doesn't know. Qi Lu asked, Mu Ran, since the other party is so strong, why did they value you, a heaven's law doer, so much? Furthermore, that emperor treated you quite well. Yu Wenba also said faintly. The two's meaning was very clear, Mu Ran, you couldn't have defected to the enemy, right? After hearing that, Mu Ran hurriedly explained, Sect Master, why would Mu Ran betray Tianliang's sect? Mu Ran, but why did I hear that after hearing what you said, that Snow Corpse gave up on attacking? Lan Gu slightly squinted his eyes and let out a chilling aura. Mu Ran doesn't know. Qi Lu took a cold look at Mu Ran, then suddenly stood up and shouted, Mu Ran. You don't know the important things that I asked you. Do you still have Tianliang's sect in your heart? Mu Ran stubbornly lowered his head and didn't say anything. After such a thing happened, why was everyone's spearhead pointed at him? At this moment, a disciple ran in from outside the door, reporting to Sect Master, Elder Ma is back. Elder Ma was still alive. Lan Gu and the others all stood up, and they saw Ma Ji being carried in by 2 disciples. Sect Master, you have to take revenge for us, those people are so vicious. Ma Ji laid on the wooden stretcher and shouted in pain. Lan Gu asked faintly, Elder Ma, tell me in detail. Sect Master, all of us went to save Mu Ran, but after Mu Ran was brought back by Elder Fang, she tried her best to put in a good word for Wushu Empire, and because of this, even Elder Fang got angry. I feel that Mu Ran has already defected to the enemy. Ma Ji directly pushed all the blame for the failure onto Mu Ran. After hearing that, Mu Ran's brain buzzed, and he said in disbelief, "Elder Ma, how could Mu Ran defected to the enemy? You are talking nonsense." "Mu Ran. Why did you go alone? Why did you go alone? And why did you go alone? But all of us got into trouble, can you explain clearly? And who is the man behind you?" Ma Ji questioned in a deep voice. Chapter 789. Looking at her master's corpse in front of her, Mu Ran was a bit flustered. "In the past, this place was my home, but now, this place is so unfamiliar to me, everyone is so unfamiliar to me." Mu Ran did not do it. "Of course I won't admit it." At this moment, Mu Ran's eyes were filled with determination. "What right do you have to push the blame onto me? Stubborn." Lan Gu snorted coldly and raised his index finger. A white-colored dookie that carried along with it the aura of death could be seen attacking towards the middle of Mu Ran's eyebrows. And Mu Ran seemed to have already expected the result of the attack, and she slowly closed her eyes. "I'm still wrong, what that emperor said is right." After waiting for a long time, Mu Ran did not sense death. She slowly opened her eyes and saw a tall figure in front of her again. Mu Ran's eyes reddened instantly. This was the third time. Every time, Sky Red would stand in front of him and block the threat of death. Sang Konghong's actions were undoubtedly shattering the defenses of Mu Ran's maiden heart. Every girl would have such a dream, where the man they loved would shield them from the wind and rain, and Mu Ran was no exception. Although Sang Konghong was ugly, his heart was kinder than everyone else's. Sang Konghong's tall figure stood in front of Mu Ran. The white battle energy had struck Sang Konghong's abdomen. There wasn't even a piece of skin on his sturdy abs. Blue Valley and the other elders were dumbfounded. How was this possible? The sect master's cultivation technique was actually unable to harm him at all. Everyone's gaze became solemn. "Who are you?" Lan Gu did not dare to be careless. This person was able to receive his attack without the slightest injury, so his strength could be seen. It was extremely powerful. Sang Konghong did not say anything, but Mu Ran, who was behind her, said, "He's my guard." Lan Gu suddenly laughed out loud, his voice filled with mockery. "Mu Ran. You've got guts now. Lying was actually so easy. Looks like Heavenly Tao's strength has blinded your eyes." Mu Ran stood up slowly and looked at Lan Gu. "Sect leader, Mu Ran is telling the truth. Then I'll kill you first, traitor." Lan Gu's figure suddenly disappeared. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Mu Ran. His fingers formed a claw as he grabbed at Mu Ran's neck. However, an even bigger hand suddenly appeared. He grabbed Blue Valley's wrist tightly. Lan Gu was shocked, Mu Ran even more so. Sang Konghong. He was actually able to grab onto sect leader's wrist. At this moment, Firmament Hong had no other choice but to unleash his full strength. Otherwise, Mu Ran would definitely die. Moreover, he had held it in for a long time. He had wanted to kill everyone in this room for a long time. A bunch of degenerates. Bullying a loyal girl. A long sword materialized in Blue Valley's left hand. It went straight for Blue Sky Red's heart. Ding! The sharp sword pierced Sang Konghong's chest, but a strange sound rang out. Sang Konghong's skin was like steel, and the tip of the sword couldn't penetrate it at all. Lan Gu was stupefied, Yu Wengang was also dumbfounded. Qi Lu was also stunned. Ma Ji felt that he was dreaming. Mu Ran's jaw dropped. How did Sky Red suddenly become so strong? Sang Konghong grabbed Lan Gu's wrist and flung him away. Bang! There was a hole in the roof of the hall, and the sect leader of the Cold Sky sect was thrown out by Sang Konghong. It was unknown if he would turn into a star. The entire hall was so silent that one could hear a pin drop on the ground. Since the sect leader was thrown out, the three elders didn't dare to say a single word. Meanwhile, Sang Konghong grabbed onto Mu Ran's hand, causing a blush to appear on Mu Ran's pale face. "Let's go." A muffled voice came out from under the iron mask. Mu Ran looked at Sang Konghong blankly, and discovered that she was a bit unable to understand Song Konghong. Isn't he a mute? Why is he able to speak now? Although Mu Ran was puzzled, she still followed Song Konghong and left. This cold sky sect has already changed. While Song Konghong took the opportunity when Mu Ran wasn't paying attention and shot out a strand of deviant fire from his fingertip, and noiselessly drilled into Ma Ji's body. This man should have died in Wushu Empire from the start. After Song Konghong left with Mu Ran, Ma Ji suddenly felt that his body was extremely irritable, as if there was a lump of fire burning him. "Aw!" Ma Ji immediately let out a scream. Under Ma Ji's skin was a patch of fiery red, and there seemed to be something burning under his skin. Yuan Gang and Qi Lu were both stupefied. In a blink of an eye, Ma Ji powerlessly laid down on the ground, and his entire body emitted out a charred smell. All that was left was a jet-black skin. Not long after, Lan Gu, who was thrown out, came back. His white hair was incomparably messy, as if he had just driven a convertible sports car back. "Where is he?" Lan Gu shouted angrily. He could no longer maintain his image as a sect master. "He's already gone," Yuan Gang said, trembling with fear. The other party was too terrifying. Lan Gu heaved a sigh of relief and looked at Ma Ji. "What's wrong with him?" "I don't know. It was like a fire just now." Qi Lu also lost his imposing manner and said in a low voice. Lan Gu said gravely, "I didn't expect that. Mu Ran actually managed to find such a powerful bodyguard. I've underestimated her. Grandmaster, this guard is very strong. What should we do?" Yu Wenba asked in a low voice. "Humph. Since Mu Ran is heartless, don't blame me for being ruthless. Aren't her parents in Gouda Principality?" Hearing the sect master's words, the two elders instantly understood. No one is allowed to say a word about what happened today. The Blue Valley had been humiliated so badly. They definitely did not want others to know about it. Their dignity was already on the ground. "Yes." Everyone replied respectfully. However, right at this moment, a voice suddenly rang out. "Wushu Empire invites you over. Tianliang sect master will arrive at Wushu Empire in 5 days. If you don't come, the sect will be exterminated." The one who finished speaking was naturally Bai Gu. Passing on such words seemed to be a trick that Bai Gu was very good at. After finishing speaking, Bai Gu went to another place to pass on the message. However, before Lan Gu and the others could react, they even felt that what they heard just now was an auditory hallucination. "Sect Master. I seem to have heard it just now." Yuan Gang mumbled, shock could be seen within his eyes. "I heard it too," Qi Lu said while trembling with fear. Lan Gu's expression was gloomy. "This damned Wushu Empire, they are simply trampling on Tianliang sect's dignity." On the other side, Bai Gu arrived at Gouda Principality. At this time, the prince had yet to return, and King Feng Yongzhang was currently in his study room meditating with a grave expression on his face. "Wushu Empire invites you over. Gouda Principality's king must arrive at Gouda Principality in 5 days, if not, the country will be exterminated." Feng Yongzhang went into a daze as he looked at his surroundings. Could it be that I am having a misconception? However, those palace maids also revealed a perplexed expression. "Did you all hear it just now?" Feng Yongzhang asked gravely. The palace maids who were standing at the side hurriedly kneeled down. Chapter 790. How was this possible? Were the rumors true? White Bones went to the other 2 countries and said the same thing before leaving. As for whether they would come or not, it was up to them. If he came, there would still be a chance of survival. If he didn't, there would definitely be no chance. At this moment, Song Konghong and Mu Ran had already left Tianliang sect and were standing beside a clear river. Mu Ran threw the stone. Just like before, Song Konghong stood behind Mu Ran. "You're lying to me. You know how to talk and you're very strong," Mu Ran said with her back facing Sky High Hong. Song Konghong's heart sank, and she hurriedly explained, 1 minute later. No, another minute passed. Yes, so, Mu Ran looked at Sun Kong Hong in a daze, not interrupting him. After listening, she asked, is it difficult for you to speak? How long does it take to say another word? Yes. Sun Kong Hong nodded. Mu Ran finally understood. This way of speaking was indeed no different from being mute. It was understandable. But you lied to me. You're clearly very powerful. Mu Ran seemed to be blaming Sun Kong Hong, but her tone was like that of a little girl throwing a tantrum. Sun Kong Hong didn't want Mu Ran to misunderstand and hurriedly said, Mu Ran quietly listened to Sun Kong Hong's explanation. Although she spoke a little slowly, Mu Ran did not interrupt and appeared very serious. Sun Kong Hong spent half an hour explaining his intentions. He had fallen off a cliff by chance and refined his strength, but he didn't dare to tell others about it. It had to be said that Sun Kong Hong had learned how to lie. At the very least, he didn't stupidly say that he was the emperor's subordinate and that he was here to lie to him. From this incident, it could be seen that Sun Kong Hong had developed some emotional intelligence. It seemed like she did not want to lose Mu Ran, even though she did not admit it. However, when Sun Kong Hong looked at Mu Ran, who was quietly listening to what she was saying, she felt very strange in her heart, and seemed to be moved. He was always a listener. In the past, when he spoke to Yu Hua would always interrupt him and guess what he meant. Whether it was Yu Hua or the flag master, they were all the same. Because they spoke too slowly, others did not have the patience to listen. However, Mu Ran, she didn't have a single trace of impatience on her face, and seemed to be very serious. She was the first girl to listen to him seriously. Mu Ran suddenly took off her iron mask and looked at Sun Kong Hong's strange face. She asked seriously, is what you said true? Yes. Sun Kong Hong nodded. It seemed like she had really gotten smarter after the incident with Yu Hua. She knew how to lie to little girls. Mu Ran nodded and gently bit her lips. Then, she suddenly kissed Sun Kong Hong on the cheek and ran away with a red face. Sun Kong Hong was stupefied. He had lived for more than 10,000 years, yet today, he was forcefully kissed by a girl. Shouldn't he be angry? But why do I feel a little happy in my heart? What a strange feeling. Sun Kong Hong was stunned for a long time. Then, he put on his iron mask and slowly walked to Mu Ran's side. Right now, Mu Ran's hands were tightly clasped together, feeling very shy and nervous. Just now, I was too impulsive. I kissed him, how embarrassing. He wouldn't blame her for being frivolous, would he? Did he think that she was a casual girl? Sun Kong Hong took in a deep breath, as though she was making some great decision. She then reached out to hold that small hand once more and headed toward the direction of Voidless Empire. Meanwhile, Mu Ran was being held by Sun Kong Hong. Looking at that tall and big back view of Sun Kong Hong, Mu Ran felt as if she was being surrounded by a strong sense of security, and it was very warm. The two of them were not in a hurry to return. Instead, they strolled along the green mountains and clear waters, as if they were on a date. If it was the Sun Kong Hong of the past, he would have directly brought Mu Ran back to Voidless Empire. But now, he actually knew how to go sightseeing. It seemed like she had been enlightened quite a bit. At the very least, the girl had expressed her feelings, and Sun Kong Hong had also expressed her attitude. Although he didn't say anything, silence spoke louder than words. And the main reason why Yihua invited these big shots of northern Liang land over was to announce some things. For example, in the future, Wushu Empire will have the final say in northern Liang land. In the future, these three countries will become Wushu Empire's subsidiary countries. And of course, Tianliang sect. You can disagree, but as for what the consequences will be, you can imagine it even with your buttocks. This was a feast at Hongmen. Either they chose to submit or they chose to die. It was time for Liang Bei to submit. After all, the northern Liang was a small place. However, for the past few nights, Qing Yutong had been rather tired. After all, the children were about to leave. Qing Ye and Dong Huang Baiji had given all of their time to the children. Thus, Qin Yutong had to take over the glorious and great mission. Meanwhile, Qin Yutong was complaining incessantly. In the past, I always wanted my brother-in-law to hug me, and now, he did hug me. But how can he hug me from night to day? I can't even rest for a single moment. Thus, Qin Yutong, this new empress, chose to hide and seek. In the beginning, she would hide in the palace. She would either go to Zishan Palace or Yizizi's palace. In any case, she would go wherever she went. In the end, she would be found by Yi Hua and carried back. On this day, Qin Yutong learned from experience and directly ran out of the palace. Right now, Qin Yutong was walking on the streets of Voidless Empire. However, her walking posture was a bit strange, as if she was injured. Bastard brother-in-law, to actually use so much strength, it still hurts even now. Qin Yutong muttered a few times. I told him to rest, but he isn't even willing to rest. Tonight, I won't go back no matter what. It had been a long time since Qin Yutong left the palace. She discovered that Voidless Empire had changed a lot. The population ratio had increased, and right now, she could even see children playing on the streets. There were even couples and the likes. Suddenly, Qin Yutong felt that a big hand was hugging onto her waist. That big hand was simply too familiar. I was found again. Brother-in-law, just let me go for a night. Take pity on Yutong. Qin Yutong immediately hugged onto Yi Hua, then started acting pitiful. Yi Hua sneered, in the past, did you think that I wouldn't be able to find you just because you ran out of the palace? Brother-in-law sob. Qin Yutong acted coquettishly again. Let's go. Yi Hua said faintly. In any case, this is my own empire, and I didn't even inspect it much. Qin Yutong was delighted. She hugged onto Yi Hua's arm and walked onto the streets. It seems like this is the first time I'm going on a date with brother-in-law, and it feels pretty good. Yutong, what do you think about this inn? Yi Hua looked towards a rather luxurious inn and said. Qin Yutong didn't react in time and said casually, it's pretty good. Let's go and get a room then. Qin Yutong, brother-in-law. We can talk about it, there is no need for us to be in a hurry. If you were to spoil Yutong, you wouldn't be able to use her in the future. Chapter 791. Qin Yutong said, I don't want to go in, brother-in-law is shameless, messing with me every day. Yi Hua turned his head around and said faintly, Yutong, if you want to find excitement outside, that's fine too, I can satisfy you. Then let's just get a room. Qin Yutong had a gloomy look on her face. So brother-in-law is actually so clingy. Although I am gloomy, I am still quite happy. However, after walking into the inn, it was actually full. Yi Hua walked out with a gloomy face. I don't believe that all the inns are full. In the end, after asking a few inns, all of them were full. In actuality, the number of people who knew Yi Hua, the emperor, was rather few. He often stayed in the palace and didn't come out much, so everyone thought that he was an ordinary person. Recently, there were quite a lot of people who entered the city, and all of the inns were basically full. Qin Yutong looked at Yi Hua's gloomy face and immediately let out a sweet-sounding laughter. Brother-in-law, don't be like this, it's not like Yutong will run away, it's all yours. In the past, I wanted to increase the population, but now, I suddenly want to decrease the population. Yi Hua said faintly. Qin Yutong was very happy in her heart, because all of this is for me. I am so happy. Although there is less excitement and nervousness, there is more of a taste of happiness. Brother-in-law, how about we? Qin Yutong blinked her beautiful eyes. Towards Qin Yutong's intentions, how could Yi Hua not understand? Qin Yutong could be seen pulling Yi Hua and running into a dark alley, then pushing Yi Hua onto the wall. She said, Little Gongzi, let's see where you can run to today. Oh, you are even putting on an act for me. In actuality, Yi Hua quite liked this kind of Qin Yutong. Qin Ye and Dong Huang Baiji are a lot more well-behaved. What do you want? Yi Hua said coldly. I want. Qin Yutong directly pressed onto Yi Hua's body, then stood on her tiptoes and kissed him. Yihua did not hesitate and held on to Qin Yutong's but with both of his hands. These clothes are really hard to take off. Just as the fire was about to ignite, a ray of light suddenly appeared. Audacious madman, you actually dare to take liberties with an innocent woman in Wushu Empire. Yihua and Qin Yutong, who were in the midst of kissing, could be seen getting a bit stupefied. Yihua and Qin Yutong, who were in the middle of kissing, were a bit stupefied. Qin Yutong immediately felt embarrassed and hid behind Yihua. This is so embarrassing, other people saw this. Luckily, I didn't fight with Yihua just now. It was better to have less passion in the wild in the future. Yihua looked towards Kai Yun and said gravely, Kai Yun, what are you doing instead of sleeping so late at night? I, the Supreme Overlord, managed to turn a loyal Muron into my side with just a snap of my fingers, and she willingly joined my side. Seems like my ability to control people is becoming more and more awesome. Yihua placed down the book, then turned around and looked towards Muron. You can stand up. Thank you, my emperor. Muron stood up respectfully and sized up the emperor in front of him. Why is he so smart? If only my brain is half as good as his, that would be fine. How is it? I didn't lie to you, right? I didn't. Then, do you think that I did something wrong? Yihua asked. Muron took a deep breath. From my emperor's perspective, I didn't do anything wrong, and I even gave you a chance. Continue. However, my emperor's way of doing things will attract a lot of people's attention. After all, Northern Liang is just a small place. Hearing what Muron said, Yihua revealed out a smile, but very quickly, he retracted his smile. Muron, you have overlooked an important problem. Muron doesn't understand. I want everyone to know that in Northern Liang, there is an existence that they cannot afford to offend. Yihua had changed his strategy. He didn't take the initiative to look for trouble with others, and instead, he waited for others to come and look for trouble with him. After that, he would be able to openly exterminate those people. Muron thought for a moment. That's true, the emperor is so powerful, it seems like there is no need for me to fear anyone. That's right, accompany me for a meal tonight. Yihua said faintly. That would be Muron's honor. Go and rest then. Thank you, my emperor. What Muron didn't know was that Yihua was going to invite the three kingdoms to a banquet tonight. If others were to see Muron sitting at Yihua's side, those people's expressions would definitely be very interesting. The expression of those people should be very interesting. This was also the reason why Yihua wanted to call Muran over. Right now, Wuliang sect master had already arrived at the city gate. Beside him was Yu Wengang and Qi Lu. Looking at the imposing city gate, the three finally understood why Ma Ji and Fang Meiying wanted to take down the city gate. The city gate was indeed very attractive. End of this chapter. Chapter 792. Sect Master, this Wushu Empire is truly majestic. Just this city wall alone is even more majestic than Aluo River's 3 absolute palace. Yu Wenba, who was at the side, couldn't help but exclaim. Qi Lu looked at the endless city walls and said, I'm afraid even the Qingren prison is comparable to the 3 absolute hall. Lan Gu lightly stroked his white beard, did not say anything, and walked towards the city gate. When he saw the white-armored warrior at the city gate, he frowned slightly. There was no fluctuation of battle energy, just like an ordinary person. What did that mean? From what they said, these guards were all of the Dosher class. Filled with doubt, the 3 of them walked into Voidless Empire. This time, the 3 of them had been very low-key. There was no suspicion of exaggeration. After all, Wushu Empire's strength had yet to be fully displayed. However, from the looks of it now, it was already extremely powerful. It was an existence that could not be provoked. Not long after the Tianliang sect entered the city, the king of the Gouda Principality, Feng Yongzhang, also appeared with a gloomy expression. However, this kind of expression disappeared very quickly because he was shocked by the Voidless Empire in front of him, and he was unable to come back to his senses for a very long time. Compared to his Gouda Principality, his place was just a place where the natives lived. It was not worth mentioning at all. He didn't even feel like a king anymore, more like a village chief. He really didn't know how far behind he was without comparison. The Gouda principality still had its grandeur. The long procession displayed the grandeur of an emperor. But in front of Voidless Empire, this was merely a joke. Feng Yongzhang also knew that he would be making a fool of himself if he came alone. It was not only Feng Yongzhang who was like this. The Xuanzhong Kingdom and the Great Earth Empire who came after him were the same. Such a procession walked into the city and was pointed at by the commoners. Some even covered their mouths and chuckled. You're all defeated people, yet you still have the nerve to act like this. Aren't you afraid of being laughed at by others? You're just lowering your own status. Looking at the Tianliang sect that just entered, they kept a low profile, always walking. The procession soon arrived in front of the palace. At this time, the kings were about to come down. Beside the palace stood sect leader Lan Gu and the others. Why didn't they enter? It was because they wanted to wait for them to enter together. As the sect master of the heavenly cold sect, how could Lan Gu tolerate this temper? He absolutely could not tolerate this. So, he just stood there silently, throwing a tantrum. The three emperors got off their carriages and saw Blue Valley's group. They didn't think much of it and hurried over to greet them. We pay our respects to sect leader Lan. The three kings respectfully greeted. Lan Gu replied with his eyes closed, appearing cold and arrogant. Among the three kings, other than Feng Yongzhang, Xuanzhong Kingdom's Song Feiang had sent assassins to assassinate Mu Ran. The other thinner one was Guan Zhexiang, the king of the Tai Tian Empire. He looked nervous. Seeing that Lan Gu was silent, Guan Zhexiang cautiously asked, Sect Master Lan, what happened this time? Are we considered to be sheep walking into a tiger's den today? Song Feiang also said worriedly, That's right, Lord Lan. I heard that your 200,000 disciples were all killed. Patriarch Fang was crushed to death and Patriarch Ma is missing. What should we do? We can't fight back at all. Hearing Song Feiang's words, Lan Gu's face darkened even more. He seemed to be reminding himself that 200,000 disciples and 2 elders had died. Feng Yongzhang said in a low voice, What are you all worried about? Everything will be decided by Sect Master Lan. Song Feiang and Guan Zhexiang didn't say anything. They could only rely on the powerful Tianliang sect now. Feng Yongzhang, have you done what I told you to do? Lan Gu asked with murderous intent. Sect Master Lan, Mu Ran's entire family has been beheaded. No one was spared, Feng Yongzhang said respectfully. Lan Gu nodded. Very good. That bastard. How dare he betray the Tianliang sect? Yeah, I feel weird when Mu Ran said she came here alone, Feng Yongzhang also said, trying to curry favor with her. The heavy palace gates suddenly made a sound. This made them stand up straight and look at the gate that was slowly opening. Yi Hong appeared at the gate. She looked at them and said, Follow me. Everyone took a deep breath. They didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse to enter this gate. It all depended on fate. Yi Hong led the way in front, followed by all the big shots of the Northern Liang sect. They walked up the long stairs and finally arrived at the main hall. Everyone, please. Yi Hong didn't plan to go in and smiled. Lan Gu and the others didn't have any doubts and walked into the main hall. Walking into the main hall, Lan Gu felt very warm. The floor beneath his feet seemed to be unusual, and the dragon pillar was emitting an astonishing aura. Sitting on the throne at the center, is that Wushu Empire's emperor. His appearance is indeed extraordinary, and his appearance is astonishing. And the one who was sitting below, it's actually Mu Ran. When Lan Gu and the others saw Mu Ran, they were all stupefied. When Mu Ran saw the sect master and the others, he was also stupefied. I didn't expect that other than me, the emperor would treat someone else. This kind of meeting, it seems a bit awkward. Yi Hua, who was sitting on the throne, liked this scene very much, especially when he saw the look of disbelief on Lan Gu and the others' faces. In Lan Gu's heart, he never expected that Mu Ran would have really defected to the enemy. Looking at him now, he is actually eating with the emperor. When he thought about everything that happened, a terrifying thought emerged in Lan Gu's mind. Everything was arranged. Mu Ran's disappearance was a ploy to make me send troops over to save him and then snatch him away. In the eyes of others, I am no different from a bandit, but Wushu Empire won a good reputation and defeated the strongest Tianliang sect. Damn it. I was actually tricked. Lan Gu wasn't the only one who thought this way. Even Feng Yongzhang had the same thought. It seemed like everything had been planned. What a vicious girl. My son still hasn't returned yet. All of this was arranged by Yi Hua. In the past, Mu Ran was still loyal, but you all made her bitterly disappointed, and now, she is following me. Suddenly, Feng Yongzhang's expression became extremely ugly, because he thought of something. I executed Mu Ran's family. If Mu Ran really defected to Wushu Empire, then, this matter would be huge. Everyone stood below without any etiquette. After all, they were sect masters or even kings, there was no reason for them to kneel and kowtow. Yi Hua looked at them indifferently, then said to Mu Ran, shouldn't you say something at a time like this? Mu Ran came back to her senses. Of course, she understood what the emperor meant, but should she really say those words? After a while, Mu Ran seemed to have made a decision. That hesitant expression of hers became much calmer, and she shouted out, "Why are you still not bowing after seeing my emperor?" Yi Hua was very satisfied with Mu Ran's attitude. Chapter 793. X to the power of 8 1 Z yin ad-free update fastest new August 1st Chinese Xiaoshuanet. As his subordinate, no matter how weak he was, he couldn't lose in terms of momentum. No matter how big the problem was, he would be there to shoulder it. Hearing Mu Ran's words, Lan Gu's expression turned extremely ugly. It was as if he had just eaten *T. In the past, this lass always had to kneel and worship him, but now she actually wanted him to kneel and worship someone else. What an ingrate. Feng Yongzhang, who was standing behind Lan Gu, felt the same way. This girl was very scheming. She had unknowingly latched onto such a thick thigh. Scheming *tch. Guan Jiaxiang and Song Feiyang, who were standing at the side, did not say anything. However, as long as Lan Gu knelt, they would definitely have to. They had no other choice. It all depended on Blue Valley now. Seeing that no one responded, Mu Ran shouted again, "Greet the emperor. Kneel down and pay your respects." Lan Gu really wanted to strangle this brat to death. However, he didn't dare to do so. If he were to make a move, something might happen. He didn't want to bring about a calamity that could destroy his sect. But didn't kneeling mean that he had submitted? If word of this got out, where would his face go? Lan Gu took a deep breath, cupped his fists and shouted, "Cold Sky sect leader Lan Gu greets your majesty." The people standing at the back also shouted. This should be considered giving face to the other party. The other party wouldn't force them anymore. Mu Ran didn't know if the emperor accepted it, so she didn't say anything. Yi Hua placed down the chopsticks in his hand and asked faintly, "Is your hearing normal?" Everyone's heart sank. This emperor was really insatiable. Yet, he was still unwilling to let it go. "Your Majesty, of course our hearing is normal," Lan Gu said in a deep voice. Yi Hua leaned on the dragon throne and said faintly, "Since it is normal, hurry up and pay your respects to the emperor. After that, we can talk about other matters." "Your Majesty, isn't this inappropriate?" Lan Gu said in a low voice. There was a hint of anger in his tone. It had been a long time since Lan Gu had been humiliated like this. Oh. Inappropriate? Was the strength that this empress displayed not strong enough? If this is the case, you all can go home now and welcome my strength. I will not disappoint you all. Yi Hua's meaning was very clear. Today, if you all do not kneel, then you all are being disrespectful. If that's the case, I will have a reason to kill all of you one by one. So, don't ever give me a reason to kill all of you. If not, all of you will die miserably. This isn't a joke, this is a serious warning. Hearing such a threat, the scene became quiet for a while, and it seemed strange and oppressive. At this time, a terrifying panic spread in the hearts of the three kings, and their bodies trembled. Finally, Xuanzhong Kingdom's Song Feiang couldn't suppress the fear in his heart and knelt down with a thud. Song Feiang, who was wearing the emperor's gown, kneeled down. This scene caused even Mu Ran to be very surprised. However, Yihua didn't kneel down and continued to wait quietly. As Song Feiang knelt, it seemed to have an effect. Guan Jiaxiang, who was next to him, could not help but kneel as well. The fear in his heart had reached its limit. Feng Yongzhang was the same. His legs were trembling, and the fear in his heart was magnified infinitely. Finally, he couldn't take it anymore and knelt down. Only the three from the Cold Sky sect did not kneel. The three kings are smart to choose a better future. Master, if you don't want to kneel, then bring your people back to eat a hot meal and wait for death to come. Don't disturb the conversation between me and the three kings. Lan Gu turned around to look. The three kings were kneeling on the ground, trembling, while Yu Wengang and Qi Lu stood silently behind him. Blue Valley's heart was in a fierce struggle. Should he believe the words of this emperor? If he turned around and left, he would really be able to destroy the sect. That would be the end of him. However, this emperor could also be scaring him. A person who could easily kill his elder, would such a person lie to him? And that confident look didn't seem to be an act. Blue Valley took a step back and slowly knelt down. When Yu Wengang and Qi Lu saw their sect leader kneeling, they didn't think much and followed suit. Mu Ran couldn't believe what she was seeing. All the big shots of Northern Liang were kneeling. This can't be a dream, right? Yihua let out a light sigh, seemingly a bit disappointed. Seems like these people are all smart people. Lan Gu took the lead and shouted, "Your Majesty! Hooray! 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 Your Majesty! Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!" Yihua said faintly, "Get up, sit at the side and eat." "Thank you, Your Majesty." After everyone sat down, Yihua said lightly, "Actually, I hope that all of you can have a bit of backbone." This was a sentence of mockery. Everyone's expression turned ugly. This way, I will be able to kill all of you. Following Yihua's words, the few big shots' expression changed. They felt that it was fortunate that they kneeled just now. After all, life and death were decided by kneeling, why would they not kneel and instead ask for death? Only an idiot would choose death. Lan Gu seemed to be a bit autistic. Meanwhile, Feng Yongzhang said respectfully, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for not killing us." Yihua didn't say anything after hearing it. He picked up his chopsticks and said, "Have a taste of these dishes, they are all top quality dishes, they are definitely dishes that you all have never eaten before. Especially this crayfish, it is delicious, remember to wear gloves before eating, there is a lot of oil in it." After hearing that, Song Feiang really wore a disposable glove and tasted the crayfish. Soon after, Song Feiang praised, "My Majesty, it is so delicious." "Huh, let's eat, let's talk while eating," Yihua said with a smile. Returning to this place was like returning home, Yihua was smiling a lot. Feng Yongzhang and Guan Jiaxiang didn't stand on ceremony and tasted the crayfish. As expected, it is delicious. Mu Ran is my subordinate now, and what you all were in the past, you all will still be what you all are in the future. Hearing what Yihua said, everyone paused for a moment. This seems to be good news. I thought that I am going to be the king by myself, but it turns out that nothing has changed. Soon after, Yihua continued, "But, in the future, Mu Ran will be managing all of you, her words are my words. If you all don't obey me, then change to someone else who is obedient. Do you all understand what I mean?" Lan Gu's hands that were placed under the table were tightly clenched. "Right now, I actually have to listen to a little girl. How can I tolerate this? I can't tolerate this." Let's eat a crayfish first to calm down. We will all listen to my emperor. The few big shots shouted out. Yihua nodded his head. Yihua's mood was pretty good. No one dared to anger me. At this moment, Muran asked, "Are my parents doing well in Gouda Principality?" Feng Yongzhang was immediately startled, and even Lan Gu's expression tensed up. If I had known that Muran had surrendered to me, I definitely wouldn't have gone to kill Muran's family. Feng Yongzhang knew that he wouldn't be able to hide the matter anymore. After eating the last crayfish, he hurriedly walked to the center of the table and kneeled down. Seeing Feng Yongzhang's action, Muran's expression immediately became unsightly, and a feeling of fear spread within her mind. What happened? Yihua asked faintly. Feng Yongzhang hurriedly said, "My emperor. Muran's family has already been completely killed by me, but this was all under sect Master Lan's order. He said that Muran betrayed the sect, and thus, he wanted to kill Muran's family. I had no choice but to do so. Old Tai, set a small goal first." Chapter 794. Hearing Feng Yongzhang's words, Muran's vision turned pitch black. She sat powerlessly on the ground and her beautiful eyes became misty. She clenched her fists tightly and glared at Lan Gu. After hearing that, Yihua slightly wrinkled his brows and asked, "Blue Valley, is what Feng Yongzhang said true?" Lan Gu slowly stood up, walked to the center and knelt down. "My emperor, it was my order, but I thought that Muran had betrayed me, so I gave the order." Yihua took a look at Muran who was at the side, then said, "Family members shouldn't be implicated, you all should be able to understand this logic, right? We know our wrongs." The two quickly admitted their wrongs. Yihua asked faintly, "Muran, what do you think we should do about this matter? After all, they are also considered to be your enemies." Muran slowly closed her eyes. Her family appeared in her mind. Tears flowed from the corners of her eyes. When she opened them again, there was no pity in her eyes. "Kill." Hearing Muran's words, Yihua felt a bit gratified. "If I were to let this matter go, then," Yihua nodded his head, seemingly approving of the proposal. Just when Feng Yongzhang, who was kneeling on the ground, wanted to plead for leniency, he felt a chill on his neck. Stretching out his hand to touch his neck, he saw that it was all blood. Then, the entire head rolled down. Without the head, blood gushed out like a fountain. Everyone present was dumbfounded. They didn't even know who did it. However, Lan Gu, who was kneeling by the side, was the same. His body was covered in blood, but he had no idea who had killed Feng Yongzhang. A bad premonition erupted within Lan Gu's heart. He saw Lan Gu unleash all of his strength at the peak of the Do Huang class. "Give me your life." Lan Gu knew that if the emperor did not die, he would die. He would rather cut off all means of retreat. Lan Gu's entire body transformed into a sharp golden sword. Instantly, it shone brightly, and a terrifying sword chi filled the palace. Seeing this scene, Song Feiyang sighed in his heart. Was this the peak of a Do Huang? So powerful. As expected of the sect master of the Tianliang sect. Awesome. As for Yu Wenba, his eyes were also filled with surprise. He did not expect the sovereign to have mastered the human sword transformation technique. Even a Do Zone would have to be careful of this move. A terrifying pressure was emitting out from the palace, and the huge pressure was heading towards Yihua. However, Yihua didn't put it in his eyes and continued to eat. This kind of pressure was no different from cotton. Roar. 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 Four dragon roars suddenly rang out, causing everyone's ears to ring. The divine dragons surrounding the red pillars suddenly appeared. The four mystical dragons opened their bloody mouths and bit down on the long sword in the air. The long sword was instantly torn apart, but the mystical dragons did not seem to mind at all. They swallowed it all and then continued to merge into the pillar as if it had never appeared. A few silver threads fell from the sky. The entire process didn't even take 10 seconds, but it was definitely memorable for a lifetime. 4 divine dragons appeared. Lan Gu, who was at the peak of the Do Huang class, was bitten into pieces. No. In that instant, he already possessed the strength of a Do Zong. However, so what if he was a Do Zong? In the end, only a few strands of hair remained. No one dared to speak. They finally saw the Emperor's strength. The divine dragon was just a decoration. F***ck. How the F***ck could anyone live like this? Right now, the 2 elders of Tianliang's sect were frightened. Just now, the sect leader tried to kill the emperor. Therefore, Yu Wengang and Qi Lu hurriedly knelt in the middle. Your Majesty, spare our lives. We don't know anything. Yi Hua ignored them and looked towards Mu Ran, who was grieving. Mu Ran, my condolences. Hearing the emperor's consolation, Mu Ran couldn't take it anymore. Her strong appearance collapsed and she cried bitterly on the table. After all, Mu Ran wasn't even 20 years old yet. How could she possibly endure such a blow? I lost my parents in an instant. Yi Hua sighed slightly. Luckily, I don't have parents. After a long while, Mu Ran stabilized herself and said with a sobbing tone, Your Majesty, please allow Mu Ran to leave first. All right, go back and rest for a while. Thank you for your concern, Your Majesty. Mu Ran knelt respectfully, then turned around and walked out of the palace hall. The main culprit had already been punished, so there wasn't much to say. Yi Hua looked at the 2 people who were kneeling and said faintly, What are the 2 of you called? Your Majesty. This lowly one is called Yu Wengang. Your Majesty. This lowly one is called Qi Lu. Yi Hua said faintly, Yu Wengang, in the future, you will be the sect leader of Tianyang sect, and Qi Lu, you will be the emperor of Guda Principality. Hearing that the emperor didn't pursue the matter, the 2 were elated. Thank you, Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. The 2 hurriedly thanked Yi Hua. This is truly a wise ruler, a great person. After that, nothing else happened. After the few of them finished eating, they left the palace and rested for the night in the tavern outside. Tomorrow, they would return to their own territory. Yi Hua also went to find Xin Yutong to have some fun. Xin Yutong felt that she was going to be played by her brother-in-law. In Mu Ran's bedroom, Zhang Konghong stood at the entrance of the bedroom. Hearing Mu Ran's cries ringing out from inside, Zhang Konghong felt very uncomfortable in his heart. Should I go in and comfort Mu Ran? I heard that Mu Ran's parents were all killed. Although the enemy is already dead, Mu Ran's parents won't be able to come back to life. Just as Zhang Konghong was pondering, Tang Wei walked in. Tang Wei had also heard about this matter, so she specially came over to take a look at Mu Ran's situation. Looking at Zhang Konghong, who was standing foolishly outside of the bedroom, Tang Wei wished that she could knock on Zhang Konghong's head. What are you still standing outside for? Quickly go in and comfort Mu Ran. Tang Wei pulled Zhang Konghong to the side and said in a low voice. Zhang Konghong did not say anything. You've already missed out on Yu Hua. Don't tell me you want to miss out on Mu Ran as well. Do you really want to see Mu Ran marry someone else? Tang Wei mercilessly attacked Zhang Konghong. Zhang Konghong clenched her fists tightly when she heard Tang Wei's words. Do I have to see Mu Ran get married? And then go through that pain again? Tang Wei looked at Firmament Red. She was exasperated that Firmament Red did not live up to her expectations. She snorted coldly and left first. She would come back to see Mu Ran tomorrow. Zhang Konghong stood where she was for a long time. She looked at the door, mustered her courage, and walked up. Zhang Konghong gently pushed open the wooden door. She saw Mu Ran lying on the bed and crying. She felt terrible when she heard her crying. Zhang Konghong slowly walked forward and sat on the edge of the bed. Looking at that petite figure moving slightly, she reached out and patted it lightly. Mu Ran turned around to look at Blue Sky Hong. She pounced on her and cried even harder. Zhang Konghong heaved a sigh of relief. She gently hugged Mu Ran and stroked her back. The 2 of them didn't say anything. They seemed to understand each other. After a long time, Mu Ran got tired of crying and fell asleep within Sang Konghong's embrace. Sang Konghong lightly placed Mu Ran on the bed and covered her with the blanket. Afterward, she stood at the side and continued to protect Mu Ran. Meanwhile, Yi Hua was currently in the middle of a meeting. This was a family meeting that was held by Qin Ye. There were a total of 4 people, Yi Hua and his 3 wives. The main topic of the meeting was regarding Yi Hua's domestic violence against Qin Yutong. Chapter 795. Yi Hua glared at Qin Yutong fiercely, seemingly asking, "What are you doing this time? You are clearly saying that you are having fun every day, and now, you are doing such a thing. I really want to ruthlessly slap you." Qin Yutong hid behind her big sister and stuck out her tongue. "You bully me every night, I will bully you tonight." Yi Hua knew about Qin Yutong's mischievousness, so he played along with her. "Yi Hua, don't bully Yutong all the time. Yutong is not a robot. She won't be able to withstand you doing that every night," Qin Ye said helplessly. Her little sister had already complained to her a few times, but Qin Ye felt that her little sister was just showing off, so, don't blame big sister for tricking you. Dong Wang Baiji also smiled. "Yi Hua, Yutong is still young, and she had just experienced such a thing, let her rest for a while." Qin Yutong hid behind her 2 big sisters and nodded her head. "What Dong Wang Baiji said is right." Yi Hua suddenly laughed. "You two have also been through this together, so you two should know my habits. Furthermore, don't be tricked by Yutong. She always says that she is having fun every time." Yi Hua felt that it was funny when he thought about that scene. Qin Yutong's face turned red. "How is that possible, brother-in-law? Don't speak nonsense. Who is having fun? It is so painful." "Oh right, Yutong even asked whether big sister is having fun or she is having fun, whether big sister Baiji is as strong as me. I didn't even say anything, and she already started showing off, saying that I am the strongest, the most important." Qin Ye, "Dong Wang Baiji, brother-in-law, don't speak nonsense. Big sister Baiji, don't believe him, I definitely didn't say such a thing." Qin Yutong hurriedly explained. "Brother-in-law is too bad. When did he say that? He was just vaguely saying it." Qin Ye and Dong Wang Baiji could be seen immediately grabbing onto Qin Yutong and pushing her into Yi Hua's embrace. Dong Wang Baiji said faintly, "Yi Hua, make do with it first. And, if you break it, we will exchange it for a new one." Qin Ye said gravely. "This little fellow is quite showing off." Hearing this, Yi Hua immediately laughed. "Exchanging the old for a new one, this is not bad." Hearing this, Yi Hua immediately laughed. "Yi Hua, help me teach her a lesson, let her know the consequences of showing off." Qin Ye said tenderly, "Yi Hua, help me teach her a lesson, let her know the consequences of showing off." "All right, leave it to me." After finished speaking, Qin Ye and Dong Wang Baiji went to accompany the children. Seeing that the children were about to leave, as a mother, Dong Wang Baiji became even more sad. When the door was closed, Qin Yutong's expression instantly changed. "Brother-in-law, I know my mistake, hee. Do you think that it will be fine just by admitting your mistake?" Yi Hua said coldly. "To actually dare to do this, you sure have guts." "Brother-in-law, sniff, 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 I beg for mercy." Qin Yutong rubbed against Yi Hua's chest with all her might, just like a little kitten. Yi Hua held on to Qin Yutong's exceptionally beautiful face and said lightly, "Yutong, tonight, let's change to another place. This can be considered as your punishment." "Change to another place?" Qin Yutong didn't react in time, but when she saw Yi Hua's evil smile, her entire person didn't feel good. "No. No. Don't." Qin Yutong hurriedly ran away, but Yi Hua directly carried her on his shoulder. Qin Yutong hurriedly begged for forgiveness. "Brother-in-law, I really can't, I will die." "How would we know if we don't try?" Yi Hua laughed evilly. Qin Ye and Dong Wang Baiji don't dare to try, but this Qin Yutong, her guts are too big, how can I not teach her a lesson? "Brother-in-law, in the future, I promise that I will be obedient and listen to everything you say, okay?" Qin Yutong was about to cry. If I knew that it would be like this, I wouldn't have taken revenge on Yihua. Even if you shout till your throat breaks, no one will come and save you. Big sister. Big sister. Save me, your husband is going to kill your little sister, Qin Yutong shouted loudly for help. Yihua directly threw Qin Yutong onto the big bed, and Qin Yutong was just like a frightened little rabbit, hugging onto the quilt and hiding at a corner, with a look that said, "Do you want to come over or not?" Looking at Qin Yutong's appearance, Yihua's fighting spirit was aroused even more. The next day, Yihua walked out of the bedroom feeling refreshed, indicating that he had already completed Qin Ye's task, and that Qin Yutong would not be able to get off the bed for the next few days. Meanwhile, Qin Yutong, who was sleeping on the bed, had a gloomy look on her face. Brother-in-law is simply shameless, ouch, so painful, but it still feels rather good. The days passed by day after day. Looking at the streets that were getting more and more prosperous day by day, Yihua felt gratified in his heart. The population is finally increasing, and the business development is also getting better. This is a good start. Even the housing prices have increased by tens of times. Yihua couldn't help but sigh with emotion. There are people who speculate in real estate everywhere. As for that sect and the 3 countries, everything was quiet. This northern Liang can be considered to be under my control, and I don't plan to bother about those small fries. The next task that I will be doing is to focus on the children. After all, the children were going to be going on a mission soon, and Yihua could tell that Qin Ye and Dongwang Baiji were very reluctant to part with the children. After sending the children off, Yihua decided to bring his 3 wives out to relax, and at the same time, inspect Aluo River. Speaking of Aluo River, Yihua only saw it from a history book, and it was just a map. Northern Liang was the northernmost place, and below Northern Liang was Aluo River. It was unknown where Aluo River's water flowed to, but according to the rumors, Aluo River's water possessed a huge corrosive power, and a person who touches it would instantly be corroded. Therefore, Aluo River's water was also known as soul water, and no one dared to touch it. However, around Aluo River, people worshipped the river god, and Aluo River was also a symbol of power. In the area around Aluo River, there were a lot of powerful sects and countries. Compared to Northern Liang, that place was just like a provincial city, and Northern Liang was just like a small village. Among the sects, there were 2 that were the most powerful. One was 3 Absolute Palace, and the other was Ren King Prison. Yihua had not seen how they looked like, but after sending the children off, I will bring my wives out to relax. Right now, Yihua was sitting in the children's palace, and he was thinking about some problems. During these few days, Qin Ye and Donghuang Baiji had been carrying the children, and they had been repeatedly reminding Yihua and showing all kinds of worries. Yihua, where do you want to send Yan, and Lu, to study? Qin Ye asked curiously while carrying the children. Yihua slightly wrinkled his brows, then said gravely, in the south of Kanglo continent, there are 2 powerful sections. One is called Broken Vein Mountain, and the other is called Shen Academy. The Mountain Master and Dean are both overlords. These 2 sects are very strict when it comes to the selection of disciples. 3 days later, Broken Vein Mountain and Shen Academy will be recruiting disciples. After sending Yan, and Lu, to Broken Vein Mountain, we will have to go to Shen Academy. Time is a bit tight. The reason why Yihua arranged the children like this, on one hand, was to strengthen their relationship with each other, and on the other hand, it was because Dong Huangli and Yi Yan are too good sometimes, and they don't have the heart to be decisive. Meanwhile, God Yi and Yi Lu weren't worried at all. Thus, the reason why Yihua separated God Yi and Yi Lu from each other was to let them repeatedly remind their big sister and big brother that it's okay to be kind, but being too kind would only bring harm to oneself. End of this chapter. Chapter 796. The 4 children were very excited when they heard about the place they were about to go. After all, there were warlike cells in their blood. When they thought about how they were about to leave the protection of their parents and be able to show off their skills, they were a little excited. Not only did Yihua want the children to learn, he also wanted the children to go to places where people's hearts were complicated. Putting it into practice was the best way to do it. Will it be dangerous? Qinya asked gravely. Although Dong Huang Baiji did not ask, her gaze was filled with worry. Don't worry, as long as they go in, their safety is guaranteed. After all, those two forces are in the south, and they are the strongest in the Kangluo continent. No one dares to provoke them. Yihua's words gave the two wives a shot of confidence. As long as the child can be safe, everything will be fine. We will depart 3 days later. At that time, Baiji and I will go and send Ali and God Yi off. Qinya, you and Yutong will go and send Yi Yan and Yi Lu off. Let's split up. If not, we won't be able to make it in time. After all, we only have 1 day. Yihua said faintly. Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji nodded their heads and listened to their husband's arrangements. During these 3 days, Yihua, Qinya, and Dong Huang Baiji accompanied the children to play. This time, when the children went out, they would no longer be able to accompany them in their so-called childhood. What was waiting for them was a life of study. It was a bright and sunny day, and the blizzard had stopped. The 4 little fellows had already finished their preparations. They didn't bring any heavy baggage, and they didn't bring anything. Yihua, who was standing at the side, felt very reluctant in his heart, but he did not show it. However, the eyes of his 3 women were all swollen from crying, and even Qin Yutong was the same. After all, Qin Yutong had also watched the children grow up, and right now, the children were about to leave just like that, and Qin Yutong was very reluctant to part with them. Although the 4 children were given birth by Qinya and Dong Huang Baiji separately, in their eyes, there was no difference between them. All of them would call Dong Huang Baiji and Dong Huang Baiji. Just look at how Qinya is crying while hugging onto Dong Huang Li. Dong Huang Baiji hugged onto Yi Yan and cried loudly. Dong Huang Baiji looked as if she was going to be separated by life and death. Yihua didn't really like this kind of scene. Thus, he slowly walked to the side and looked far away. As a man, Yihua hid his weak side very well. After all, these were all his own flesh and blood, who wouldn't feel heartache for them? Making this kind of decision, I am also very sad, but I have no choice but to do it. Brother, Yi Lu called out softly. God Yi looked at his sister and smiled. What's wrong? Lu. The next time we meet, we will be opponents. I hope big brother won't disappoint little sister. God Yi knew what Yi Lu meant. There would be a competition between Meridian Break Sect and Shin Institution, and it was a competition between the disciples with the most potential. God Yi and Yi Lu were very confident, so they would meet as opponents. However, by that time, they should have already grown up. Luer, I won't go easy on you. God Yi chuckled. He was looking forward to competing with his sister. As for the others? Forget it then. None of us are a match for him. Alright, it's a deal. Yi Lu walked forward after saying that and hugged God Yi gently. The corner of God Yi's mouth curled up into a smile. He hugged his sister tightly and said slowly, I'm not by your side. Take good care of yourself. Yes, you too, brother, Yi Lu said in a low voice. The brother and sister had been together for 5 years. Although they weren't blood-related, they felt closer to each other than blood-related. Now that they were going to be separated, they were naturally reluctant. This is only the relationship between brother and sister. Dong Huangli was also hugging her little brother, Yi Yan. In the future, big sister won't be able to bring you along to act cool anymore. After I bring you along, you have to properly act cool by yourself, don't embarrass big sister. Dong Huangli said attentively. Yi Yan's nose was a bit sour. After I was born, I have been following my big sister around. Even my parents didn't spend as much time with my big sister, and now, I am going to be separated. Daddy, Mommy, can Yan cry? Yi Yan asked weakly. Hearing that, Yihua let out a breath. I can. Yi Yan immediately started crying loudly in Dong Huangli's embrace. Even God Yi and Yi Lu were letting out soft sobbing sounds. Yihua's 3 wives were also sobbing silently. Only Yihua was quietly watching on, and his mood was a bit bad. Looking at the time, it's about time. All right, let's go our separate ways. Yihua walked forward and said gravely. Daddy, hug. The 4 children stretched out their hands and looked at their father with longing. Looking at his adorable children, no matter how strong Yihua was right now, his eyes couldn't help but become a bit moist. Slightly squatting down, Yihua carried the 4 children into his embrace and said attentively, study properly, Daddy and Mommy are proud of you all. Daddy, we understand. Yihua nodded his head, and his gaze became firm once again. Qinya, Yutong, let's go our separate ways. Qinya nodded her head. The 4 children gradually separated from each other. The separation now was for the reunion in the future. Carrying reluctance, the 4 children disappeared from where they were standing. Broken Vein Sect was located at the south of Kangluo continent. Broken Vein Sect was formed by endless mountain ranges. However, there were faults in between the mountain ranges, which was why it was called Broken Vein Sect. In actuality, Broken Vein Sect was more like a big country. The area that it occupied was very big, and it was even bigger than the entire northern Liang. Broken Vein Sect was divided into 2 sections. The main sect was naturally the true Broken Vein Sect, and the secondary sect was naturally much worse than the main sect. However, the disciples of the secondary sect would still try their best to enter the main sect. Within these broken veins, every mountain range had its own name, and the mountain range that Yihua and Dongwang Baiji came to was called Jade Vein. Jade Vein was below the secondary sect, and only disciples with extremely high talent could enter the secondary sect, and the secondary sect would then select disciples to enter the main sect. Yihua hoped that the children would be able to train themselves at the lowest level. At the foot of Jade Vein Mountain. Wow, there are so many people. Dongwang Li gradually got rid of the sadness of parting and looked at the things in front of her. The foot of Jade Vein Mountain wasn't as luxurious as she imagined it to be, it was just an ordinary small village. However, this small village was already packed with people. All of them had brought their children here because they heard of Jade Vein Mountain's fame. There were royalty and nobles, and there were also ordinary commoners. Meanwhile, those 4 and 5 years old children were all very confused and even a bit scared. How could they be as calm as Dongwang Li and God Yi? Ah Li, don't run around. Yihua shouted out. Oh, Yihua held on to Dongwang Baiji's delicate hand, and Dongwang Baiji held on to her son God Yi. Dongwang Li walked over and held on to her father's hand. The next time I see my father, I will have already grown up. Thinking about it, I am really looking forward to it. The appearance of this family of 4 immediately attracted everyone's attention. Especially that woman. How can there be such a beautiful woman in this world? Perhaps it was because of the reluctance that Dongwang Baiji revealed that made people feel even more heartbroken, as if they were suffering from domestic violence. Yihua first took the number plate, then followed the group up the mountain. From time to time, parents could be seen bringing their children down the mountain. Every single child would be crying for their parents. This time, Jade Vein's recruitment is different from before. What's going on? Why is it different? I heard that the combat disciple will personally test the recruitment. End of chapter. Chapter 797. What? Fighting disciple. Our child is still so young. That's right. What kind of rules are these? They're simply fooling around. Hearing the discussions at the side, Yihua knew that there was a benefit to choosing a student this way. The main point was not to look at the student's ability to win against a fighter, but rather, it was to look at the student's talent. Yihua said in a low voice, Ali, God Yi, please restrain yourself later. Yes, I know, Dad. Although Yihua's voice was very soft, it was still heard by the people in front and behind him. At the same time, he thought to himself, this person really knows how to act tough. To ask such a young child to show mercy, it would be good if other Do fighters showed mercy. Dongwang Li was still very interested. However, God Yi, who was at the side, had a stern look on his face. He wasn't interested at all, he's too weak. Only a doe disciple. Playing with a doe zone was fine. Seeing that Dong Huang Baiji was unhappy, Yihua lightly kissed onto his wife's cheek. Alright, don't be too sad. Yihua's movements seemed very normal. But in the eyes of these people, it was different. In the Kangluo continent, it was no different from the ancient times. It was a complete loss of morals. Furthermore, you kissed such a beautiful woman in front of us. This was intolerable. Even if she's your wife, you can't act like this. If this wasn't the foot of the Jade Mountain, I would definitely kill him. I hate men who put on airs like this the most. So what if you have a beautiful wife? Look at how cocky he is. I want to stamp a shoe on his face. Ah Li, Dong Huang Baiji called out gently. Mom. Dong Huangli stretched out her hand and held on to her mother's hand. Yihua shook his head. Seems like Dong Huang Baiji is a little angry. The speed of the procession was very fast, and so were the people going down the mountain. Most of them were bringing their children down the mountain. It seemed that the proportion was very high. Gradually, Yihua finally arrived at the platform in front of the Jade Vein Peak. Behind the platform was a huge signboard. Jade Vein Peak. The three large words carried with them a powerful pressure. With one look, one could tell that it was not an ordinary item. It must have been written by an expert. As long as they could step through the gates of Jade Vein Peak, they would bring honor to their ancestors. At least, that was what everyone thought. There were 3 old men sitting on the high platform, silently watching the scene. In the field, a 10-year-old child was competing with a 5-year-old child who was a bit shorter. To be precise, it wasn't a contest. Before the fight even started, the 5-year-old child was scared to tears. Then it was the next one. The strength of a doe disciple standing in front of the children was very frightening. This was reasonable, but the requirements to enter the sect were indeed much higher. In the past, it was only a test of talent. Yihua looked at the children who were crying and leaving one by one, then shook his head. I'm afraid that I won't be able to receive more than a few children in a day, right? Very soon, they arrived at Yihua's house. Which one of you wants to go first? Yihua asked lightly. His calm demeanor made people feel that his child could easily win. Why would he ask who would go first? His opponent was a 10-year-old fighter. It was terrifying. Sis, you go first, Gaji said calmly. Dong Huangli spread out her hands. All right, big sister will give you an example. Everyone, this girl was quite pretty, but why did she like to brag? Even the 3 old men sitting on the high platform paused for a moment. This girl was a little interesting. They didn't know if she had any real skills or not. Dong Huangli directly walked towards the platform and looked at the boy who was in front of her. While looking at Dong Huangli, the young man's face was a bit red. What a beautiful girl, it seems like in the entire Jade Vein Peak, there isn't another girl like her. She is even more beautiful than a celebrity. That's right. The 10-year-old genius fighter, Mu Gao, was someone who had been reborn. His golden finger was unknown. Dong Huangli sized up the boy in front of her, then said faintly, "Come on, don't look at me like an idiot. No matter how much you look at me, I won't be yours." Mu Gao, hearing Dong Huangli's words, Dong Huangli felt that Dong Huangli was really hot. Dong Huangli, I can't afford to offend her. This girl isn't bad. She isn't afraid in front of Mu Gao, said an old man on the platform. Yeah, looks like he's quite something. Actually, you just have to look at your parents to know whether or not you have any material. The 3 elders nodded their heads. From Yihua and Dong Huang Baiji's looks, it can be seen that this girl is definitely someone with great potential. Mu Gao cupped his hands towards Dong Huangli. Dong Huangli had no choice but to follow Mu Gao and cupped her hands towards Mu Gao. Be careful. Mu Gao said in a deep voice. Dong Huangli laughed lightly. The one who should be careful should be you. Right after Dong Huangli finished speaking, Dong Huangli's delicate body disappeared. Afterward, Mu Gao felt a stifling sound coming from his chest, and he was forced to take a few steps back. The entire audience became deathly silent. This girl, actually pushed down a fighter. How is this possible? The three elders on the viewing platform suddenly stood up and mumbled, this girl actually has the strength of a fighter. How is this possible? In the entire Kangluo continent, such a thing has never happened before. However, such a thing happened in front of their eyes. This made the three elders feel as if they were dreaming. Mu Gao looked at Dong Huangli, who was on the stage, blankly and was a bit absent-minded. I actually lost to a girl, she is so formidable. Yihua shook his head and told Ali to keep a low profile, but in the end, just who did she learn from? She just likes to act cool. God Yi, don't learn from your sister. Yihua warned. Alright. Dong Huangli. Pass. Along with an elder's announcement, Dong Huangli could be considered to have passed. Dong Huangli bowed towards the surrounding audience and thanked them. This is too easy, so boring. If only Yen was here, I would be able to act cool together with my big sister, I would be so happy. An elder could be seen walking over and said with a smile, the two of you must be Dong Huangli's parents, right? Yihua nodded his head. Dong Huang Baiji held onto her daughter's hand with a look of reluctance on her face. The two of you can be at ease, we have a family visit day every year, and you can come into the sect to see your child. You don't have to worry about your safety, no one will dare to cause trouble in Meridian Break sect. After hearing that, Dong Huang Baiji became happy, then said in a low voice, I will leave my child in your hands then. Don't worry, Dong Huangli is a good seedling, we will definitely focus on nurturing her. The elder said with a slight smile. He felt that Dong Huangli would definitely enter the sect in the future. Little brother, what are you still standing there for, go. Dong Huangli looked at God Yi and shouted out. The elder immediately became confused, you want your son as well? That's right. Yihua said faintly. Looking at God Yi, the elder felt that this child is probably only around 5 years old, right? This is his big sister, it seems like his little brother won't be too far off either. Jade Meridian Peak's luck is pretty good today, to be able to find 2 rising stars. However, I still have to give it a try first. God Ye's expression remained unchanged as he walked onto the stage. Mu Gao stabilized the aura within his body, then walked onto the stage at the same time. However, God Yi did not feel anything at all. This action of God Yi caused everyone to be stupefied. The big sister is so formidable, but why is the little brother so monstrous as well? The expressions of the 3 elders immediately became strange. This was a kind of shock. End of this chapter. It was a real headache, but he still had to listen to his sister's words. Dong Huang Baiji squatted down and lightly hugged the children. Mommy won't be by your side. You two have to take care of each other, do you understand? God Yi, you have to protect your sister. Ali, you too. Don't let your brother be bullied. Yes, Mom and Dad, don't worry. I will definitely protect my little brother. I will protect my sister as well. Yihua nodded his head. This is my good child, go on, study well. Dong Huangli held onto God Ye's hand, then waved towards her parents. Dad, Mom, Ali will miss you too. I will miss Dad and Mom too. Yihua and Dong Huang Baiji sent off the children with their eyes as they walked into the Jade Vein Peak. Dong Huang Baiji immediately snuggled into Yihua's embrace and started crying. All of the parents present were able to understand Dong Huang Baiji's feelings. Yihua comforted Dong Huang Baiji lightly, then let out a light sigh. After supporting Dong Huang Baiji down the mountain, they went to a place where there was no one around and disappeared. Yihua was preparing to go and see how Qingya was doing. The deity institution was different from Broken Meridian sect. The deity institution was located in Minglan communal country, and it was the most unique existence in the entire Kangluo continent. However, the Radiant Mist communal country was also the largest country in the entire Kangluo continent. Yihua sent a message to Qingya, and after knowing that the exam was still going on, he decided to bring the pitiful Dong Huang Baiji over. Baiji, don't cry. Look at the surrounding people's gazes, it seems like I am bullying you. Yihua felt dizzy. You still haven't bullied me? Yihua, woo-woo. Dongwang Baiji lightly pounded on Yihua's chest, as if she was massaging him. Yihua said tenderly, alright, my darling, I beg you, can you do it? Woo-woo, you can call me little fairy then. Yihua, Baiji, you are already the mother of 2 children, and you still want to call me little fairy? Are you trying to make me laugh to death? Yihua was truly amused by his wife. Little fairy, ha ha ha, this is too funny. Seeing that her husband was actually laughing at her, Donghuang Baiji snorted, then walked forward by herself. Upon seeing that, Yihua immediately pulled his wife into his embrace. Little fairy, don't be angry anymore, alright? I don't want to talk to you anymore. Donghuang Baiji said angrily. Seeing that his wife's mood became a lot better, Yihua became slightly relieved. Looking at the surrounding buildings, he asked, do you think our territory is better or this place? Donghuang Baiji gradually calmed down and said tenderly, this place is filled with a simple and unadorned aura. Our territory is just like a newborn that lacks time to sink. Yihua nodded his head. Some things cannot be settled with money, they need to be polished with time. Very quickly, the husband and wife arrived at the recruitment location. Brother-in-law, over here. Qin Yutong could be seen standing at the entrance and waving her hand as she shouted. Looking at the lively Qin Yutong, Yihua directly held onto her little hand, then walked into the examination hall of Deity Academy. Outside the examination hall, there were many parents who were waiting anxiously. Qinya. Yihua immediately saw Qinya, who was waiting anxiously. Yihua. Qinya hurriedly walked over and lightly snuggled into her husband's embrace. The surrounding men seemed to be about to spit fire. Just now, I felt that it was strange, why aren't there any men beside those 2 beauties, but there are children beside them. Look at this. This man is holding onto one with each hand, and he is even hugging onto another. If this isn't showing off, then what is he doing? I have never seen such a shameless person, to actually have 3 such beautiful wives, this is simply illogical. Yihua asked lightly, where are Yen, and Lu, They have already entered the examination hall. Qinya said lightly. Qinya was very nervous in her heart, not knowing if her children would be able to pass the examination. Brother-in-law, have Ali and Gaji passed the examination? Qin Yutong asked curiously. They have all passed the examination, so we came over rather quickly. Yihua said. Donghuang Baiji asked curiously, over there, they are competing in martial strength. What is Qinya competing in here? Qinya said worriedly, I heard from them that they seem to be competing in willpower, but I don't know what it is. All of them have entered a small room by themselves, and their results will be displayed on the stone tablet. End of this chapter. You're tuning into the Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.